Hey everyone, I got something new and snazzy today. So this isn't going to be like a normal video, but if you've seen the channel update, I don't think this fits the second video because it's not a stream. This is just me recording by myself. So I really want to talk about Persona because I've played like all of them, and I'm a huge fan of Persona. I'm a huge fan of SMT. But I can't really dedicate the time to make a full video, especially on each Persona game at the moment. You're talking about like 80 to 100 hour playthroughs, and if I'm getting footage for something, I want to make sure I have footage for what I'm specifically talking about. So full, by the way, full spoilers for every Persona game. But like if I'm talking about, hey, the final boss of this, I want actual footage of that. I don't want to just kind of like half do it. So for now, this will let me get all my thoughts about Persona out for the time being. And I'll be able to talk about every single one of them, which is what I really want to do right now. And I hope you'll enjoy this as a video too. This is going to be unedited and unscripted, just because of the way I'm recording this isn't through my like Audacity, where I can stop, re-record on my audio and stuff like that, because I want to make sure everything's synced up to like my mouse movements and what I'm moving around and stuff like that. So there might be a lot of ums. The audio might not be quite as good. I still have some filters being applied through like Podfarm with yeah, I'm using Podfarm for my mic, but Podfarm and the filters through OBS. But I can't stop and then start again and stop and start again. So if you're here for that, great. I hope to start a discussion about Persona. I'm probably gonna make some people very angry. I understand being very passionate about something. When you hear an opinion on something you either hold highly or don't care for at all, you could be like, what is this person talking about? Feel free to tell me what you think in the comments. I'd really like to hear from you, because I feel like some opinions about Persona could be all over the place, and it's very entertaining. I honestly kind of don't mind somebody dunking on my favorite Persona games, because it's a completely different experience and opinion that they have that I don't understand until I hear it, kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like I have my own opinions, and it's fun to hear other people's opinions, because some of it's stuff that I wouldn't have even thought about before, if you kind of get what I'm saying. So yeah, sorry, this is going to be kind of unedited, but I hope that's all right. I want to do something just a little more laid back. Like I said, this isn't like a stream, so this is going up on the main channel or whatever. All right, enough about that. I'm sure you've seen videos like this before. So we got like rankings from S through F. I added this F one here. Thanks to whoever made this tier chart. Is this person right here? Thank you very much. So we're gonna rank them, and my problem is that I think like there might be like 7 games that I would normally put straight in the S tier or something, you know. But I'm gonna try to be like super critical, and while still having obviously like my own opinion, but super critical of what I'm trying to say about these. That way, not everything's going into S tier. So I'm not sure where I'm going to start with this. Give me 1 second. I'm sipping some coffee. Like I said, this is very informal. All right. Okay. How about, I think it'd be a little more enticing if I start with some spin-offs first. That way, and I'm sorry to do this to you audience, but that way I kind of hook you into staying longer. Or you could skip to the end of the video, but where's the fun in that? So let's actually, and like I said, full spoilers for everything. No. We're just gonna go down. We're gonna go down the line, actually, because it's still gonna take a while to get to Persona 5. So we got the Japanese version of Persona 1 on the PS1, the American Persona 1, and the PSP remake. Some of these I'm not gonna double up on. Like, I don't feel the PSP versions of Innocent Sin, and I didn't play the PSP version of Eternal Punishment, but I've seen footage and stuff. I don't feel those are different enough to warrant putting them separately on the list. However, in the case of Persona 1, it definitely is. And I will be talking about like FES, and I will be talking about like Royal compared to normal and Golden and all this stuff. So with Persona 1, I have not played the Japanese PS1 version, but I understand it's, you know, it's just non-Americanized and it still has the Snow Queen quest. So if we're talking about Persona, and like I said, these are very, very different. So Persona 1 on the PS1. This I feel like is gonna make some people question my sanity. I'm putting that baby in S tier. I think I'm going to. Maybe I'll change it later. But the thing is, and we're gonna start off strong. Maybe this is gonna make you quit the video right now. I think Persona 1 is the best Persona game. Now, before you have pitchforks, before you roll your eyes at me, I it's my opinion, and I'm going to try to be critical about this too. However, I feel like my opinion of this is more of it in an artistic point of view, while I still think the gameplay is pretty good. So the problem with between this and say the PSP version is that I feel like, you know, we'll get to the PSP version when we do. The Persona 1 for me is my favorite Persona game. And I'm not trying to be like a contrarian or anything like that. It's just that I'm a huge fan of SMT, and I feel like this is like the most SMT Persona game as far as it's still feeling like SMT. And I totally love the newer stuff too, but it feels very like it feels very much like SMT. And as far as the PS1 version specifically, like the cutscenes and the music, and like, you know, especially playing it on old CRT and stuff, like it feels very like dreamy, like very like otherworldly, like it feels like you're in like a dream, and it just feels like ethereal, you know, like there's something like not quite right about it, like the entire way through. And it is just such a, it reminds me of like Super Nintendo RPGs a lot, just with like better graphics and CD quality audio and stuff like that. It just feels so creative and out of place during the PS1, and especially going back to it nowadays, it's just such a weird game. So as far as like the story and the music and the characters, it's my favorite out of all of them. So obviously let's start with like the story. So all right, scratch that. There'll be a little bit of editing. My brain completely turned off and I forgot what I was saying. So I will probably periodically stop the video and then just stitch it back together. It shouldn't be too jarring, but I didn't realize how, like, I don't want this to be totally freeform in the sense of having like just complete dead air. I want to make sure you're constantly getting something out of this video. Okay. So for the story stuff, I'm bad at articulating this kind of stuff, but we're going to start with the story stuff, which is like my favorite aspect of Persona 1. So it's like, you know, a group of high school students or whatever, they play a silly little game and they awaken to powers of Persona in a bit. That's just what they have to do. They just play like a little, like they play a little game in their classroom. And so now let me hope I don't get things out of order here. But essentially, because we're talking about American PS1 version, there's only one route to go down, unfortunately. But so there's some strange stuff happening at the school, but you're not worried about that because there's a certain door that's locked anyways, and you can't even start the quest. So you're not worried about that. So you hear about this corporation or whatever, and you're essentially going to deal with it. But first, wow, I'm getting stuff out of order. But first, you go visit your friend. In the American version, it's Mary, Maki in like the actual localization. But you visit Maki in the hospital, and she's like sick, and she's like angry. Maybe not angry, but she's really just done with being sick and not going to school and stuff like that. And that, I think, is when it happens? Is that when they're like, all the hospital doors go away? I want to say it is. So sorry if I'm getting this out of order, but then, you know, like hospital doors go away and stuff, and they're like, whoa, what's going on? You got main character, boy with earring, whatever you want to call him. You got Nanjo. What do they call him? Nate. They call him Nate. in the American one. I don't know if that's still what his name was in the PSP version. You got Nate. Nate's my jam. See who you got. Mark got really changed in this localization. You really did. You know, parent wise, all that stuff. I love him in both versions though. Who else is like the mainstays of your party? Because Ellie doesn't really stick around for the Sebek route. Innate. Well, okay, yeah. So there's optional party members too, and we'll get to that in a second. But so hospital stuff happens, doors disappear. They're like, "Whoa, what's going on?" or whatever. And then there's like zombies in the hospital. Nate's butler dies, and it's actually kind of an emotional scene. And like he awakens his persona. That's when Ellie comes in for a second too. She's like, "Oh, I got one too." And then I think you kind of leave the school, and everything's like weird and different, or leave to go to the school. And yeah, you go to the school, and there's some really questionable dialogue to get into the school. I'm not going to repeat that just in case, especially since Mark's in your party. It's very funny, very bad. But you get in the school or whatever, and like Mary or Maki, whatever you want to say, is there, and she's like, and everyone's like, "Hey, what's going on with that?" And you know, she's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, I've always been good or whatever. And then you hear about, I think at some point during these shenanigans, Mark gets caught by the police, I think, and goes to like the police station. And I think you're asking Mary or Maki, I'll just call her Maki, like, where's the police station? And she's like, what is that? And all this kind of stuff. And like the whole town is kind of weird and kind of different. And I'm so sorry, things are probably out of order, but things are kind of like different. Not everything, but like some things are kind of different. Now if I'm remembering right, you find the police station, I think, and there's like some zombies again, and you like get Mark out of jail, and then you could, if you want, take Brown with you, but you don't have to. And this is what's kind of cool about this game to me, is the fact that like it has this old school style tendency where it does not mind if you just completely miss stuff. So it makes it really seem, in my opinion, like that you like have to take him with you, but you can just like keep disagreeing, and then your party's empty a slot. And that if you agree to take him, then you won't be able to get any of the other optional party members. However, you know, you can disagree, agree, whatever, and he'll have dialogue throughout the story if you take him and stuff, and he has his own weapons and stuff like that, and starts with his own persona and all this stuff. So, but the fact that there's other party members that are like that the game's completely fine with you missing is kind of really cool to me. So you get Mark, do whatever, take Brown, don't take Brown. Then what happens next? Oh, then I think you talk to Maki's mother about some weird corporation called Sebek that may be the cause of why things are a little weird, if I'm remembering right. And I'm going to put a pause in there because I'm going to talk about the other party members real quick. You know what? I'm going to throw character stuff into here. So you got main character is just literally just whatever choices you make. Nate is like rich guy, but like I really like him. Because he is like, he does care about the group and stuff. He's kind of pompous at first, but he mellows out throughout the story. Mark is just a silly little goofball. He's definitely like, to me, like the prototype of like some like Kanji or Ryuji or something. Like he's that kind of character, which I like that a lot. Ellie isn't really important for the Sebek route, but she's kind of, proper kind of person. That's the best description I have for her. What else? Oh, Mary is perhaps one of the most interesting, and I'll talk about her more later, but she's a very, very sick girl in the hospital, but also she's not in the hospital. So that's a little sketchy. And then we got Brown, which I've never really used, but he's like a hothead kind of guy. He's still cool and stuff. I've never really used him. Then your second optional party member, Ayase, if my pronunciation is right. When you can take her if you didn't take Brown, and then you get to the entrance of the next dungeon. Then you can take her. and she's kind of like man, I can't think of like a nice way to describe her, but kind of just like a bratty kid. But like again, like I don't think any of the characters are written poorly or like negatively. It's just like, you know, she's a young kid, she's a kind of bratty, but she's still like doing good things, you know what I mean? And the best party member is the most obscure and weird one to get. And to me, this is one of those things where it's like, this is why this game is so cool. They call him Chris in the localization, which is awesome, but I think it's like Reiji. I don't know how hard you pronounce that J in his name, but you have to like, when you're back in the school, you have to talk to like a bunch of different people in like a specific order, and then you got to go out of your way to find his mom in this grocery store, but like only talk to her like once or twice or something. You like can't talk to her a third time, I think. And then you got to like go back to the school and talk to somebody else, and then they say, oh, we saw him here or whatever, and then you like go to this room and then you talk to him and then he's gone, and then you got to go find him again in a different like optional scene or whatever, and then he'll like join you later, I think, like not even quite then, if I'm remembering everything right. But it's like, I'm kind of dumbing it down, but the steps you have to take are so obtuse. I don't know how anybody figured it out at first. I really don't. That's what makes this game so cool to me, is that there's stuff like that and it's just so obtuse, and like, why would anybody even think to do this kind of thing? I really enjoy that kind of stuff. So he's my favorite character, you know, if you couldn't tell. He's my favorite. He's like, he's got good affinity with all like the devil personas and stuff, which is just, he's my little edge boy. I love him a lot. So for people that haven't played this game too, also why are you watching this video? I'm spoiling the heck out of it, but anybody can equip any persona on like the newer games, but they have certain affinities for them. So people like Chris or Reiji, whatever you want to call him, has like a strong affinity for the devil personas, and the devil personas seem to be pretty good. So I kind of have a feeling he's supposed to be like, you know, a good reward if you went super out of your way to do some obscure stuff. So yeah, that's generally what the characters are. I feel like there's another character that's also kind of prominent, Justin the Snow Queen. Oh, Yuki. Yeah, who isn't really relevant to the Sebek route. That's all you're getting in the American version. But so yeah, you hear about Sebek, you go to the Sebek building, you do some dungeon crawling. Music is so good in this game because it's like SMT 1 and 2 kind of music, in my opinion. Like maybe not quite like that, but it's not the type of music we've gotten later, which I really like, but like it just leads back into this game feeling so like ethereal and weird and kind of menacing almost. Like I love the battle theme. It gets you like, it's like so pumped but also kind of strange. So you go through all the Sebek building stuff, you find the big baddie of Sebek, like this, I don't know if he's supposed to be like the CEO, like what he is, Kandori, and I feel like they call him something different in the American version, but I can't remember what it was. I know they changed his like persona thing from Nyarlathotep to Massacre. That's what they called it. But you find him and he just sends like some goons after you. There's things where like some humans will just turn into like demons and stuff in this game randomly, or like zombies, and just like whatever, don't think about it. You kind of no, you know what? I've been wrong this whole time. That's not when the reality shift happens. It's like after this, and then you like hunt down Kandori, and then you don't have Mary yet. Wow, I'm so bad. I'm so sorry about this. You don't have Mary in your party yet. You do all this stuff, and then you find Kandori, and some scientist dude is like, hey, don't go in there, or like we gotta stop him or something like that. And he's like, no. And then he like starts some machine up, and then he's gone, and then you like follow him. And that's when you end up in the alternate reality. Wow, my bad. And then that's when I think you go to the school and you find Mary and she's fine and stuff like that. That sounds right. That sounds about right. If you played Persona, feel free to correct my chronological events. It's pretty rough. It's also been a minute since I've done a full playthrough of Persona. I'm in the middle of one that I haven't touched in a minute. So besides my organizational skills with my brain trying to retell a story is really bad. I'll blame it on the ADHD. It's like but my thought gets started, and then I have to explain the context behind my thought, and then that's really hard for trying to tell something in sequential order. So alternate reality shenanigans. You end up at like the school gym. That's right. And then there's some people that were missing there. And then I think that's when you ask about the police station. Because I was wondering, I'm like, I know that didn't sound right because Mary didn't know what a police station was. Or Maki didn't know what a police station was. Yeah, I think you asked Maki about the police station. She's like, what are you talking about? It's just like a castle or something. It's like literally a castle. So there's some weird shenanigans like that going on. You do some dungeons. There's like a subway dungeon. There's like there's a castle. What else is there? There's like, I think Kandori is like a lair thing in the alternate reality. Deva Yuga, that sounds right. There's that whole dungeon. There's you go in the mall and there's this really confusing dungeon where you drop down a bunch of floors and stuff, and you have to do it twice. I'll cut to the chase so I'm not rambling too much because I know I've been talking about Persona 1 for a while now. I'm not trying to be too long-winded with it, but essentially there's like an alternate reality you end up with in which is similar to yours but has like a lot of differences and stuff, and you're essentially chasing down this Kandori guy who's like the cause of reality altering because of this machine he was working on. And so you end up in the alternate reality. You kind of trying to chase him down the whole time. You meet up with some strange like little girls that look like Maki, but they're not Maki, and they're like Mai and something else. I can't remember the other one's name. Like one's kind of evil, one's kind of good. There's a part where you have to fight like the evil one or talk to the evil one, and if you get any of her questions wrong and you have no indication one way or another, it'll lock you out of the true ending of the game. When I first played it, I ended up fighting her or whatever because like I was just answering questions or whatever, and then I found out when I got to like what I thought was the end of the game that it wasn't the end of the game, because I think maybe I heard about the final dungeon or something like that. Maybe I got like a little spoiled. I can't remember what it was. Like something compelled me to look farther, and I was like, oh wait, that wasn't the end of the game. What? Again, I understand that some people may really not like that kind of stuff, but to me it kind of lends back to this game feeling like mysterious and out of place, and kind of like a Super Nintendo RPG where like it does not care if you finish the game or not. They're like, we put this content in, we're going to be obscure about it. If you figure it out, then it's a big reward for you, but if you don't, oh well, you still played some of the game, you know. So you get like essentially different like keys to go to new places and like shards of like a mirror, I think, at one point. And you find Kandori in his Deva Yuga system or whatever. He has Nyarlathotep as a persona. If you have Reiji in your party, he's like, hey, you're like my half brother, you suck. And it's everyone's like, whoa, that's wild. Which is cool because he has like the double personas, and Kandori's like a bad guy, and I feel like that's kind of a cool symbolism thing. I do like Kandori's like persona thing, Massacre, Nyarlathotep, if it's even in Persona. I don't know what you want to call it, but that thing's sweet. So then you deal with like Kandori. I know I'm skimming over a bunch, but that's essentially the whole point of the plot. Alternate reality. Mary's not in the hospital. You're dealing with Kandori, but that's not the end of it. If you did everything right, talking to like the girl in black and stuff like that, then you find out that, oh hey, this is kind of Maki's fault. She affected is it the Deva Yuga system, or is it actually called something else? I can't remember. But she affected the alternate reality's creation, and it's like her ideal reality, and that's why there's no hospital, I think, and maybe there's not a police station either, because like nothing bad happens in her world or whatever, essentially what it is. And then there's like one more dungeon that you can do. There's an optional dungeon too where you can get some like ultimate personas and stuff for different arcanas. As far as story, there's like one more dungeon you do, and there's like some weird psychological stuff going on. Like you find your own main character in it, but it's supposed to be like his like his shadow, a little foreshadowing. Double pun, amazing. And he's just playing like an arcade machine, and like I think he's praising you for not squandering your life when you could have, or something like that. It's like really meta and really cool and out there and just bizarre. Again, like, not that stuff like Final Fantasy 7 didn't come out on the PS1. But the Final Fantasy games, I love them, but there's still like fantasy games with, I wouldn't say a predictable story or anything, but they're not like psychologically out there. And I'm not dogging on like I think Final Fantasy 7 is one of the best RPGs ever. It's just Persona, especially Persona 1, it feels like SMT, where it's like this is kind of realistic, but there's also like weird psychological stuff happening that wouldn't be out of place in like a horror game. And I'm not saying these games are like spooky, but you know what I mean? Like games kind of messing with you a little, as far as like its theming and stuff like that. So you deal with that. You find like a Maki in this dungeon that has like no face, like symbolism and stuff like that. Maki's all kind of split as far as her being pissed off with the world and being sick and stuff like that, and who she wants to be or be perceived as and stuff like that. And Maki's mind's all like split. I think there's like a cutscene of like her face, and it might be like her face in a mirror or something, like shattering or something like that. Like Maki's messed up mentally. She's not doing so hot. And then you fight something that kind of looks like Maki called Pandora, and it's like the big baddie of the game or whatever. And you deal with all that, and then the reality goes back to normal, and Maki gets out of the hospital. She's no longer sick for reals, because you were dealing with like the fake Maki of that reality the whole time. And everybody like lives a good future, and everybody's, you know, like meets up at the end or something, or they just tell you what happens at the end. I can't remember. And the best part of it is for the main character, even though there's like a little bit in Persona 2, Eternal Punishment, but for the main character, they're like, you decide, who knows. So I know that was really all over the place and really rambly. My storytelling skills are not the best, and maybe they'll be better for the newer ones, which are a little less chaotic. But I love that story, and I know I didn't articulate it well, but this is kind of a video for people that have played these games. It's so out there and so weird, and they haven't done like anything like it since, and that's fine. Like I doubt this game did super well, especially in the West, maybe in Japan, but like this definitely does not seem like something that us over here would enjoy. But I love it for just how strange and bizarre and like psychological it is. And I'm like a big sucker for like alternate reality stuff, that where things are just like slightly different, or something kind of supernatural is going on with the world, but it's still kind of normal. Like I'm a huge sucker for that. And I'm a huge sucker for like the psychological stuff with like Maki. Like it just hits all the right notes. It kind of feels like an SMT game. I like, you know, getting, and as far as gameplay, it's okay. I don't feel like it gets in the way. At first, I thought the PS1 version was kind of obtuse, but honestly, like if you just kind of pay attention to it and you take your time with it, and that's the biggest thing, you really got to take your time with this game. But once you kind of get your head around it, and you make sure you're getting enough cards and stuff and making new personas, it's kind of got a good feedback loop. And I was actually enjoying grinding and getting new personas and stuff like that. And the fact that anybody can equip anything. So even if you have to be like a little dumb and equip something that's only kind of neutral on someone for a bit, you have like full control over what you want to do. Characters have guns. I don't know if I can say that too much on YouTube, but like it's a video game. They got fake guns. But it's like they're the only characters that have like real world weaponry in that sense. I should really be careful. And I think that's cool and that's wild and stuff like that. Yeah, music, the cutscenes are honestly like my favorite part of this game. And I don't mean like just the storytelling scenes, but I mean like the actual full motion videos. They are so, and I know I keep bringing up this word, but they're so ethereal and so weird and bizarre. It just puts you in a mood. Like if you're playing this by yourself at night in a dark room on a CRT, that's how you experience Persona. And I'm not gatekeeping. I'm just saying, like, to understand my experience, that's kind of how I've played Persona 1. And you know, maybe not always in the dark, but you know what I mean. You got to set that mood. Like it's like, you know, it's like mid 90s. That's the kind of mood that I feel like this game suits the best. Okay, I need to stop talking about Persona 1. I will talk about it all day. Persona 1 is my favorite Persona game, and I do mean the PS1 version, like flaws and all. I love this thing probably half because of its flaws. It is a product of its time, and I really like things from that time period, like a lot. I love movies, games, music from generally that time period. And I'm not trying to be like I said, contrarian or like whatever. It just, I feel like this was from an era where games were still very I wouldn't say games nowadays aren't creative, but you could take huge risk back then. Maybe not huge risk, but like way more risk. Like it didn't cost you $10 million to make a game and 100 different people, which like I understand why it does nowadays. Like games graphically, all the voice acting, all the music, all the cutscenes, and all this stuff, like they're really impressive affairs. Like look at something like Resident Evil 1 and then look at Resident Evil 8. They're not even close to being similar. But I appreciate both of them, but it's obvious why like Resident Evil 8 would be so much more of a big budget sort of thing than Resident Evil 1. You know what I mean? And Persona 1 especially so feels like a creative risk for the time, probably coming off the back of SMT if, at least in Japan. And it paid off, obviously, in the end. I don't know how well it did in America, honestly, but it definitely did pay off. And the thing is, it's just they didn't really make another game like that. And it's a very unique time because it's not quite SMT either, and it's also not quite Persona. It's definitely like the in-between step of the two, along with maybe SMT if, but that's still like fully SMT game. So I'm gonna stop talking about Persona 1 for now, because we really got to move on to Persona 1. And I'm joking, but I'll talk about the PSP version for a little bit. I'm not gonna re-talk about the story too much or anything, just about like the Snow Queen quest. So it won't be too long, and then we can get into Persona 2. I swear, this is going to be a much longer video than I thought. I hope this is entertaining for everyone. Like I said, I want all your thoughts in the comments and stuff like that, because I really been wanting to talk about these games, and so far I'm really enjoying making this and discussing my thoughts on this. All right, let's talk about the PSP version now. So this, and I know this is going to seem a little dumb, but I'm going to try to be really critical about how I really feel about this. I feel like the PSP version probably goes in like B tier, and I am going to separate it that much because I'm really trying to be critical here. So for anybody that's not me, I would say, or if you don't resonate with the points I was talking about with the PS1 version, see, if the thing is, if this version was like translated or just this wasn't heavily butchered in the localization, we could just put this would be the ideal version, in my opinion. Like you got all the weirdness of the PS1 version while also having it like not messed with and still the Snow Queen route. However, and if you want a little trivia real quick, it's really cool. I remember messing around with this. There's like a Game Shark code, so you can like unlock the door with the Snow Queen mask in it in like the PS1 version, like our PS1 version. And some of the Snow Queen quest is actually translated, but just for a little bit, and then it stops, and then it's just a bunch of garbled text and stuff. Like it's kind of creepy, honestly. And all the cutscenes are still in there and stuff. And it's something I find so. I wonder how like Americans thought about this at the time, because at one point during Persona 1, you can like try to go back to the school, and there's like a whole cutscene where you see the school's all frozen over with no explanation. So. But yeah, a bit of the Snow Queen quest actually is translated, and then it's just a bunch of garbage texts that can't read the Japanese. It's creepy and really cool, and you know, maybe I'll actually talk about that at some point. So, as far as this like, if you're just kind of a normal fan of Persona, especially if you like, you know, the new stuff better, play the PSP version. Absolutely, I'm not a fool. I completely understand, and that's a joke. Like I'm not stupid. I completely understand why this version is like the better version, but I'm trying to talk about it in my own, not that I'm a critic, but in my own personal lens, and trying to be really like again, like I would still, if it was just me playing, I'd be like, oh, like ask is this Persona, but like I'm trying to be like really objective with my opinions, if that makes sense. Not necessarily what critics would like, but what I would like, and what I feel like if I really had to really be 100% real about it, where I'd be putting it. I am more likely to replay the PS1 version. So this version plays better. It's like it's in widescreen. It's got the Snow Queen quest in America, and it's not localized in the sense of changing things to Americanize them. It's just straight up like the Japanese version. And yeah, so the Snow Queen quest is the biggest deal about this version, in my opinion, and like the gameplay touch-ups and widescreen and stuff like that. But the fact is, it's not fully translated in this, and you literally can't start the quest in this version. But It's like a whole nother story thing that's maybe not quite as long, but it's like multiple dungeons and stuff. The school's frozen over. There's like this legend about the Snow Queen mask in the school, and your teacher gets like possessed by it and stuff. And you get to use Ellie and Yuki, if I'm remembering right, in this whole quest. There's like other Persona users that you fight, in the sense, or I don't know if he's supposed to be a Persona user, but I know you fight the one kid and like he has that huge growth out of his stomach. I think that's a Persona. I think. There's like, yeah, so you get different party members. You're stuck in the school the whole time instead of going the Sebek route because it freezes over. And there's like different towers you go through. One about like the Hypnos Tower and stuff like that. And there's different people from the school that got affected by the Snow Queen. I'm not going to get too into it, but you do all these different towers, and again, spoiler and stuff like that. And like at the end, you can still screw this up. You can like not do it in time and not get all like the shards of this mirror you have to like defeat the Snow Queen essentially. And then you end up fighting Nyx, like, you know, like the Night Queen, whatever you want to call her. Which is really cool that happened, you know, and again, spoilers, before Persona 3. That happened all the way back in Persona 1. Now, obviously, it's like a different Nyx and stuff like that. But the fact that happened is really cool. And it's long. It's really long. It's difficult and stuff. It's this whole thing. It's not just like a shoehorned edition and like a slightly different ending or something. Like it's like a full on thing. So as far as just playing it, this would be the version I would say. Sorry about that. However, my biggest problem is the fact that it doesn't feel like Persona 1. And I like Persona 1 because of how weird and ethereal it is. Persona on the PSP, and this was the right call for sure, I think. I wish they at least had like the original music as an option, kind of like what they did for Persona 2, like Innocent Sin on the PSP. Not that they really changed the music, they just kind of like try to like enhance it. But the music is way more like Persona 3, 4, and not really 5, I'd say. Like, 5's more jazzy, but like it's more like, you know, modern Persona music. And it's good. It's really good music and stuff like that. And all the cutscenes are redone and different. And I don't like either for this game. Now, like on the surface, the music is really good. It's really good music, and the cutscenes are objectively better looking and better presented, and they have voice acting in the American version. So I think the Japanese version of this PSP version doesn't have voice acting. I think. But yeah, it's got some voice acting and stuff. Like you get like a voice for Nanjo and Mark and stuff like that, and it's really cool. And you can do the whole Snow Conquest. But to me, the whole atmosphere of Persona 1 lies within its music and its weird, like almost low budget FMVs. And I feel like because of them modernizing it and trying to homogenize it with new Persona games, I feel it like kind of loses its identity like a lot. And I feel like it kind of almost comes across as more generic. Not that it's still got a wacky story and stuff like that, but it ends up feeling too much not like itself. However, like I keep saying, if you're going to play Persona 1, seriously, just play this version. I think there's even a mod now, if you like dump your own game and patch and stuff like that, that replaces the music with the PS1 version's music. I think that'll get you most of the way there. I still think the original FMVs really sell this game's atmosphere, but overall, this is the better playing one. It just, for me, hold on, I'm gonna drink some coffee. I know this was unprofessional. For me, Persona 1's strength lies in its atmosphere. Gameplay's okay. Gameplay's a little better in the PSP version. I genuinely do like getting the cards and fusing the personas and stuff. But Persona 1 wouldn't be Persona 1 without those wacky FMVs and the music. That's what sticks in my mind when I think Persona 1. And again, I'm not trying to say this is bad, but I'm trying to be like really objective about my opinion and where I stand on things. I'm putting this in B because I still think it's a good game. It's just it's not quite Persona 1 anymore. Okay, that's enough. That's enough about Persona 1. You see where I'm standing for the moment. I might move some of the stuff later. We'll see. This video is going to be so much longer than I thought. Let's talk about Innocent Sin. Now, to me, these versions feel close enough. The PSP version is just like a genuine improvement on everything. I'm more inclined to play the PS1 versions, and I gotta tell you about my Eternal Punishment shenanigans when we get there. But I'm just gonna pull up the PSP version because that was the first version I played. But however, no, I played the PS1 version first. I just never finished it, and then I eventually played the PSP version. But that was before I got super into SMT and stuff, and I wasn't really sure how I felt about that stuff yet. But eventually, I played the PSP version, so we're going to talk about that. When I first played this, I was like, "Wow, this is like the best Persona game ever." However, I didn't play Persona 1 yet, and I didn't find my love for it yet like I do now, because I played like the PSP version of Persona 1 like after Persona 2. The PS1 version of Persona was not the first version I played. I still really liked Persona 1 when I played it, but this PS1 version is what made me think it's like, oh my god, this is my favorite Persona game for sure. So Innocent Sin, I played like actually finished it for the first time when it got localized on the PSP. This game has one of the coolest stories still. Like, I'm going to be saying that about every one of these games, and I'm not trying to be like that, but I feel like I'm not going to rank this until I'm done talking about it, because I got to think about this for a second myself. So like I said, the PSP version is just like an improvement all around the PS1 version, but the PS1 version is still very playable. You know, dump your disc and stuff. There's a full fan translation that's been out for years. It was out when I was a kid. It's great translation. You can play it on your PS1 or whatever, which is a really cool way to experience these as well, honestly, because then it's more of like the time period. But this PSP version is great. You know, like play it on your PSP with some component cables or something, run it through an OSSC. I know I'm rambling. I'm just saying, like, you can still have a very nice like modern experience with this and a very nice like old school experience with this. Either way you swing it, it's good both ways. But yeah, especially when I was younger, because I was probably like, I might have been like, I was a teenager. Can't remember exactly how old I was, but I was a teenager when this got localized. And it had a profound effect on me as somebody who enjoys Persona and stuff, because this was like the first thing that I played that felt more like SMT. And I'm not saying Persona 2 at this point feels like SMT, but it started getting my feet wet for stuff outside of the new Persona games. Because at the time, you know, we'll get to Persona 3 when we get to Persona 3 and Persona 4, but this kind of started making me see the backlog, or not the backlog, but the stuff that came before as stuff worth playing and stuff that I would personally enjoy. And I feel like this is probably where I really started to cultivate my love for these older Atlus titles. So the story to me is like so cool. It's incredibly interesting and stuff. While I think Persona 1 story is more out there and I personally enjoy it more, I think from an objective point of view, I think Persona 2's Innocent Sin story is better. I love the whole basis, and I'm gonna try to slow my roll on talking about the story for 30 minutes. But so the premise is that rumors become reality, and that's the whole premise for the whole game. And they do some really cool stuff with it. I really like what they do with it. The cast of characters is super strong in this game. I love the Persona 1 characters, but I feel like these characters got even more fleshed out. I still like these characters more in Persona 1, like if I'm really trying to be objective about it, but the Persona 2 cast is great in both games, but Innocent Sins is really good. I like, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Akeshi? No, not Akeshi. How do you pronounce his name? I don't know how you pronounce his name, but the dude that has like the water spells in the beginning and stuff, and he's got like makeup in the guitar case that has like a weapon in it. I don't know how you pronounce his name, but I loved him when I was younger. He was my jam. You got Tatsuya, who's in this game like silent protagonist guy where you make his decisions or whatever. You got Lisa, which is like I think she is American or just knows English and has an American like heritage because of her father or something like that. Either way, she like speaks English and she's very American, and like she gets kind of ostracized for that. And you got Yuki from Persona 1. Oh yeah, good callback. Then you got Maya, which is like, you know, a very important Persona 2 character, but she's not a silent protagonist in this. And then you got later on, you get like June, who throughout the story is kind of, and again, full spoilers, kind of antagonizing the party as Joker, and not haha funny man Joker, but this game's own thing. So what it is like, if I'm remembering correctly, it has been a minute since I played Innocent Sin, but like the whole Joker thing and the rumors becoming reality starts with like, oh, there's a rumor that if you call your own cell phone number or something, the Joker will pick up and you can like ask him a question or something. But if you like fail, he'll turn you into like a shell of yourself. Is it a question? I feel like it's that, or I'm getting it confused with one of those Japanese urban legends. But essentially, like you call your own phone number and like creepy stuff happens, but you gotta like answer him correctly on stuff or something like that. I love urban legend stuff, so like that premise really gets me, and I love the whole rumors becoming reality thing. So the whole story, and I'm gonna really try to like homogenize this a bit, or not, no, like condense it. I mean, the whole story is that you're dealing with this Joker guy, and like some weird stuff's happening in reality, and then once you get through the game a little more, you like there's crazy stuff happening with like aliens and some very not so good German people from the past coming back. I there's no other way I can say that. Because I just want to be careful. So yeah, so some not so good history people come back, and aliens, and there's like a spaceship in the sky, and like you deal with this Joker entity at some point, and you find out it's your childhood friend June, who thought Maya was dead, and you find out that, oh, like really, like they were all connected as kids, but they all forgot it because they like Maya was moving away, and the kids didn't like that, and they try to like lock her in this shrine thing, and it like burned down, and they thought she died or something, but they all like forgot except June, who as Joker was trying to remind them of their quote unquote innocent sin that they didn't remember. But he remembered wrong. He thought Maya was dead, and that he was like tormenting himself over it. But then it all gets happy ending. I believe Yuki gives her persona to June somehow, and it's not her persona, but her power of summoning a persona. Then he gets his own persona. June is my jam. I love him. I know some people say he's kind of shallow and he comes in too late in the game, but he left a strong impression on me. I really liked him, and I can't remember what his starting persona was, but it was something that I thought was really cool. And the whole Joker thing was, right up my alley. I like the edgy boys. I don't know what else to say. I really do. Not that June himself isn't edgy, but the Joker persona of him, and I don't mean persona, but I mean persona. The Joker persona of him is like, pretty edgy and stuff. I really like it. I like the design too. And then so that kind of happens, and then you get to like this alien spaceship in the sky, and there's like bad history people there, and you fight big bad history World War II guy, if you catch my drift, which is insane. Like, why does that happen? Why does that happen? That does not need to happen. But it's like, I'm not saying that's cool, but I'm saying from a point of just making historical fiction in a JRPG kind of thing happen, it's really interesting. And that's definitely the feeling. It's nothing I feel like was disrespectful. It was just crazy out there rumor stuff, you know what I mean? That all happens, then you fight literally this like amalgamation of different characters' fathers called Father Time, and you deal with all that, and then you find out at the very end that it was all like an orchestration between Nyarlathotep, which I don't know if it's supposed to be the same Nyarlathotep persona of Kandori, but probably not. But Persona 1 also takes place in the same universe as Persona 2, which is also connected to Persona 3 because of literally like one line of the game, so it's all connected. But I think this Nyarlathotep is actually like a different being, kind of. And it was all like orchestrated by him. And I forgot to mention Philemon even in the first game, because I don't think he's super plot important in the first game, but it's like this dude that's like in between mind and reality and stuff, and he like gives you persona stuff essentially. And he's like a good guy, kind of. He's a neutral kind of guy, but he's like on the side of good. And Nyarlathotep's obviously bad, chaos kind of person. And they're like, oh, it was just all to see if humanity would overcome themselves, kind of thing, or if they would give in to like chaos and stuff like that. And then this is like my favorite part, because it's so out there and so wild. And I'm big into like religion stuff. Like I'm not personally religious or anything, but I love reading about different religions and stuff like that. So like Nyarlathotep like pulls out the spear that stabbed Jesus, and because there was a rumor, and this is because of like biblical stuff all the way back then, because there was a rumor or whatever that it, you know, it made Jesus like never stop bleeding or whatever happens in the Bible. He stabs Maya with it or something like that, and then she's going to die because of it. And because humans keep perpetuating the Bible, that's what causes that spear to have power in this universe. And that is so cool to me. I love that kind of stuff. It's like mind blowing. And then the party, like Tatsuya specifically, gets a choice or something to reset the universe, but they'll forget that they ever met each other to kind of prevent this from happening again. And they're like, yeah, then you get like one last cutscene at the end with like Tatsuya and Maya bumping into each other, but they don't know who each other are. Who each other are? Who each other is? I don't know the correct grammar of that right now. And I know I sped ran through that, but you know, if you played the game, you got it. So I really like the characters in this one. The gameplay is okay still. I think it's okay. I honestly kind of like Persona 1's gameplay a little more, just because you had to deal with like spacing and stuff like that. I feel like this got a little too simple, and this is probably my biggest gripe with it. If I'm really going to be picky about it, it's too easy. You might be able to play through this game using like starting personas for a long time. I know I didn't really understand the card system when I played this game, because you know I was new to this kind of stuff, and I had the starting personas for a long time, and I like never struggled in this game. It is too easy, and the problem with stuff being too easy is then you don't have to use the systems that the game has in place. So I feel like, because I actually haven't played Persona 2 in a while, I feel like if I went back to it now, I would obviously understand everything and want to take advantage of all the systems. But as the game itself is, you don't really have to take advantage of those systems, and it ends up feeling kind of lackluster because of it. And the problem is that, you know, it's an RPG and you kind of want the gameplay to be enticing and good. And I honestly do like the gameplay Persona. I don't think it's incredible, but it's good. Like, I want to grind, I want to get new personas. However, I like overall, I think the story is more streamlined. The characters are like very likable, music's good and stuff like that. Cutscenes are cool. I really like the opening that the PSP version has. That I watched that so many times when I was younger. Hold on, I'm gonna take another drink of coffee. However, I don't want to put everything super high tier. So, and because I also want to think about these later games. Wow, this video's ended up way longer than I thought. I feel like I would put this straight with Persona 1. I feel like these, and I mean the PSP version, I feel like these are about the same. So let's, I know, wow, this video is getting long. So I feel like I pretty much said everything I wanted to say, but like I could talk about it more, but it would kind of be redundant. I like the characters. I really like the rumor stuff. Music's good. I still like this music more. And I feel like the music for these are kind of on par, different styles, but it's just like one of the biggest detriments is that you don't have to try that hard. And I feel like that kind of kills it a bit. And I'm not trying to be hypocritical, because I know I said this gameplay is like not the best, but you have to try it and you have to use the systems at play. And it's got the interesting spacing gimmick where you know you can only hit things if they're like certain distances and stuff like that. And I honestly forgot to talk about that when we were talking about Persona 1. But again, I'm thinking about these things as we're going down the list. So here's the thing. Here's the funny thing about Eternal Punishment. I have not played this game until last year. It took me a long time to get around it. The thing is, for a while, I was kind of waiting, because I know there's that translation happening for the PSP version, which, can I say, and I know everybody already knows this in America, but what happened? We did not get Innocent Sin. We got Eternal Punishment, right? Then we got Innocent Sin's remake on the PSP, but then we didn't get Eternal Punishment's remake on the PSP. Now, I know the PSP was kind of late in its life cycle, but I bet, like, if you just had the PSP version on like the Vita PlayStation Store, people still would have bought it, like a lot of it. I think everybody was waiting for this. I was waiting for this because when I was younger, I like finished this for like the first time. I was like, oh my God, I need more of this. And I tried to play the PS1 version a little bit, but when I was younger, it was kind of hard for me to get into the PS1 version because I got very used to this and like kind of more streamlined gameplay and stuff. Not that I didn't play PS1 games growing up. It's just like these games can be kind of archaic, you know, especially compared to like, you know, Final Fantasy 7 or something, or Final Fantasy 8 or whatever. This stuff can be kind of archaic, and it wasn't really like meshing with me. Last year I decided, like, now that I had the time to do it, I'm like, I'm playing Eternal Punishment. I'm like, I loved Innocent Sin. I'm like, I got to see the rest of the story. So I'm like, I'll just play the PS1 version. I got my PS1 hooked up to a CRT and everything. Like, it's a good time. I'm gonna play Eternal Punishment. I was about more than halfway through the game when the English patch got finished for the PSP version, the version I've been wanting to play forever. And eventually I'm gonna play it at some point, because I was waiting for that version for it. Like, no shade to the team or whatever you want to. My lingo is so bad. Like, obviously that's a pure passion project, and it's super cool they actually finished what they started. That's super cool. I'm not complaining about taking long. I'm just saying what happened is that they ended up finishing, and I would constantly, like, every couple of months look up this translation project to see if it was done yet, and it's like it wasn't, which is, like, you know, totally fine and stuff. And so that's when I eventually decided, like, I'll just play the PS1 version. Like, it's fine. I'm way better nowadays about actually articulating how to play more archaic stuff. Like, I don't mind it all. Like, I find it charming and stuff nowadays. So I finally sat down and I played through Eternal Punishment. So I can't speak about the PSP version. I think there's slight extra story content with Tatsuya in it, but this time Maya's your main character, and you're starting from the end of Innocent Sin, where, like, the universe resets. So Maya's your protagonist now. She's the silent protagonist now. You get to make her decisions, and so the cast is mostly different, and the cast, in my opinion, is probably the best cast of the entire series. I think. Now, honestly, I'm not crazy over Maya. I know a lot of people are, but I feel like her being a silent protagonist kind of works better in her favor. Not that she's bad at Innocent Sin, but I kind of like her kind of getting out of the way, but still being present. Because I feel like the other characters in this game shine so much more than she does. I love Tatsuya's brother Katsuya. He was probably my favorite character. He's just like, I love how stern and serious he is, but he's also a little bit of a goofball. But, you know, he's still got, like, some, like, his initial persona is still, like, kind of fire based and stuff, like Tatsuya. And I love the stuff, like, he tries to, like, essentially, I know this isn't what actually happens, but, like, during like random battles and stuff, he, like, whips out his badge. He's like, you're all under arrest, and it's like, bro, you're talking to demons. And, like, sometimes when you, like, finish the battle, he's like, I'll hear your answers back at the station. It's like, are you gonna drag them? Are you gonna drag demons to the police station? But it's like, yeah, I mean, he probably would. I know there's some, like, SMT or Persona guy I watch on YouTube or one of that said something like that, and they're like, yeah, he probably would drag him back though. And it's like, yeah, he would. That's what he's so, like, earnest and so kind of dumb. He's not stupid, but he's just like, justice will prevail kind of guy. He's like, I'm going to do what's lawfully right, like, no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're a demon kind of guy. I love Katsuya. He's my favorite. You got a Bafu, if I'm pronouncing that right. I think he's supposed to be, isn't he, like, Taiwanese or Chinese or something like that? And I'm not trying to say that's the same type of country or anything like that. I literally just don't remember what nationality he is. But again, this cast kind of has, like, a varied cast too, but, like, he's, like, the total opposite of Katsuya, and all his interactions with him are great, because he's essentially like a law-breaking code breaker. Wow, I didn't mean to double up on the breaking thing, but he's not a bad dude, but he does break the law a lot, and he, like, you know, taps phones and stuff, all this kind of stuff. Like, he's doing shady stuff, and the fact that you can, like, interact or his interaction with the Katsuya, I always like, because they're, like, total opposite spectrum and butting heads the whole time. Like, eventually they end up kind of getting along, and it's a really nice moment of growth between both of them and stuff. You got Maya's friend Ulala, is that right? I hope I'm not like putting an extra law in there. I really like her too, and I like her dynamic with Maya, especially early on in the story, where you find out she was, like, I think she was drunk. I think she was supposed to be drunk when this happened, but she was, like, jealous of Maya and try to get her murdered, essentially. And I'll explain that more in a bit, but that kind of dynamic felt realistic. And I'm not saying the fact that, you're gonna get your friend murdered, but, like, she wasn't, like, hey, friend guy, or friend, she's a woman, like, oh, here's just like your best bud or whatever. Like, she was like deathly jealous of Maya and stuff like that. I had some serious issues to work on, and I like that. Like, I felt like more real. um I know, well, Tatsuya's in the party again, but he's distant and he's aloof and he's not telling you what's going on or whatever. And I'll get to it more later, but that's because Tatsuya actually remembers what happened in the first reality, even though nobody else does. That's his eternal punishment. The fact that he remembers what's going on. I don't, for a moment, depending on what route you take, and this is, God, I loved this when this happened. You get a character from Persona 1 in your party for a while. The route I picked or whatever, you got Nate or Nanjo or whatever you want to call him in your party for a while, and he got like a new older design and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my god. And then you get to see the Persona 1 cast, you get to see Chris or Razy or whatever, and like that was, oh, I was having such like a fanboy moment when that was happening, because I, you know, like I said, I love Persona 1. And then you get to see some of like the aged up Persona 1 cast, and there's like one scene where you get to see like the main character Persona 1 for like a second, where I think it actually takes place a little after Persona 1. It's like, oh my god, I'm loving this so much. Hold on, more coffee. So yeah, I really don't think I'm forgetting anyone. If I really did, that I can't believe I did, because I literally played this last year. So the cast of characters is amazing. Eventually, Nanjo gets like replaced permanently by Tatsuya, which like makes sense. But I miss Nanjo. So it's like you start the game and there's this Joker guy. There's this rumor of this Joker guy. You call him and he'll hurt somebody really bad for you. You know, if you catch my drift. I think I said the bad stuff earlier a little bit, but again, all video game stuff. YouTube, chill. There's this Joker guy that, you know, you call him up and he'll do bad things. It's like, oh, that's like the first game, except it's not. There is no actual Joker. It's just a psychopath wearing a bag over his head with a painted on smile, doing it purposefully because he's trying to reenact the other reality. Now, if you've seen this Joker's design, this is one of my favorite designs of the whole series. That paper bag over his head is so creepy. I absolutely love it. And he's insane. He's like screaming all the time. And I think he cusses quite a lot too. Like, this dude's insane. And I'm pretty sure it's like the you fight him in Persona, you fight him in Innocent Sin at one point, but in this timeline he's like super deranged and he's super messed up. And so you meet with him and he's like yelling at Maya to call out her persona and stuff, and like throws her like weapons at her from Innocent Sin, and she awakens her persona. So does like Katsuya and stuff like that, because they're investigating something that was going on in the school. Again, I love this Joker design. And that kind of starts kicking off things that are similar but not the same as Innocent Sin. And essentially you go through all this stuff. I think you can still spread rumors and stuff. You can still do different things like that. And wow, how am I blanking this hard? What are you trying to do? You go after Joker for a bit. You go to like this like asylum, essentially. That is this whole dungeon. There's like a crazy cutscene when you get him at the end. You have to fight some of his demons and stuff like that. And I know he's doing crazy stuff with his like father, and there's all this like political shenanigans going on. Bafu and Katsuya are kind of in the mix, because Bafu's tied with some like mafia members. And I know at some point there's a couple dungeons you do, like Katsuya kind of gets betrayed by another person in the police department that was feeding information to some other guy that was kind of undermining what they were doing. There's this whole thing going on where Joker is spreading, but not Joker himself, but like this like almost like virus. I don't know what you want to call it, but where like other people are kind of turning into the Joker from like Innocent Sin. And it happens to Ulala at one point. You have to like fight her, and my god, in that old maid stuff during these boss fights are so rough, or just take control one of your party members randomly. And it's like, sometimes it's like, oh, I was gonna heal with them, too bad, no you're not, you're getting the turn taken away from you and you don't even know who it's gonna be. But again, it makes for interesting boss fights. And somehow I am blanking on some of the in-betweens, but there's like essentially like a cult that's trying to spread the Joker stuff, and they're like extracting the bad energy from these people or something, like just a bunch of bad stuff. And I think the alien spaceship comes back at some point. I swear I had to go through that again as a dungeon. And then you end up in this like weird reality thing that's like kind of like Nyarlathotep's domain or whatever. And you deal with all this stuff and you fight him to kind of set reality straight at the end. I'm skipping a lot of beats. Somehow my brain is even more jumbled with Eternal Punishment, even though I just finished it. But what I can tell you is that the character interactions and everything are so good, so top tier. The characters are great. The gameplay is one of the best parts of this game. The gameplay has all like the niceties of Innocent Sin, except just the difficulty is just ramped up. I don't think this game's not like impossible, but this game's hard. This game is like really tough. Especially if you're coming from like newer Persona games. It's like, if it's not tough if you grind and you make your demons, it's super fair at that point, but it's still like, it's still tense. You still got to make good decisions, take advantage of fusion spells and all this kind of stuff. Like, you really have to work with the systems in this game in order to like stand a chance. And that's what makes this, that's what makes this game so fun. It's like, it like you really have to interact with all the systems, and the story is great. And I know it may not sound like it because I'm missing a lot of key moments, but it's more so the character interactions that are so good, and seeing how they interact with each other through scene to scene. There's such a like a ragtag group that it like they wouldn't normally like co-align if it wasn't for the story reasons, but they all grow on each other over time. And I think one of my favorite parts of this game is that as like an adult now, this cast is the most relatable cast, because besides Tatsuya, they're like all adults, and they have more like, you know, Katsuya's a police officer. He has a job. You know, Maya has a job, and they're not going to school and stuff like that. And not that I don't like this newer stuff. And when I was younger, it was much easier to relate to. But like, I haven't been in school in a long time, and at this point, you know, working jobs is way more fresh in my head than school is. But that doesn't mean you can't relate to these characters. You know what I mean? It's just, I find it way easier to relate to the Eternal Punishment cast if I had to pick and choose between the two. And then it has all the gameplay additions. The music is my jam. I love the battle themes, the boss themes, the FMVs are good and stuff like that. So I can't speak for the PSP version. And I'm trying not to make this video 5 hours long, but it's gonna turn into that. Eternal Punishment goes right there. Honestly, I have a hard time not saying that this isn't the best Persona game, but I think the themes and the weird FMVs and music of Persona 1 beat it out a little bit for me. But like when I beat Eternal Punishment, I was like worried, because I was like, oh my god, I think I finally found something that I like more than Persona 1. Like, I don't know what to do. I still think like objectively as a piece of art, I like Persona 1 more. But this is nudging shoulder to shoulder with it. Eternal Punishment is so unbelievably good. I wish I played it earlier, and I wish I would have like just taken the time to really try to get into it, but I just didn't understand all the complex systems enough when I was younger. Like, the cards and the negotiations and stuff, I just didn't have the patience to deal with it and stuff. But I bet if I would have played this after Innocent Sin and like been able to enjoy the gameplay and stuff, I would have loved this so much when I was younger. Or not, honestly. Maybe being able to relate to it more kind of does more for me. But yeah, this Eternal Punishment is top tier Persona. So now we're probably going to get into the stuff that more people probably care about. We're going to start talking about Persona 3, and I'm going to take another sip of coffee. I've been drinking this coffee for hours at this point. So here's the thing. I've not played the original version. I'm in the middle of a playthrough of FES right now, and I've finished Portable. So Portable was the first Persona game I played. So it hits very different for me. And so I can't talk about the answer. This is literally the only thing I can't really discuss on this list. But for the general consensus from what I've seen is the answer isn't going to detract or take away from the experience regardless. It's not phenomenal. But I still want to see it through myself, because I've been like kind of spoiled on some of it, but like I want to personally experience it. So I'm trying to finally make my way through FES. However, you know, as far as just the journey, I'm most of the way through it already on FES, so I can speak with confidence about the gameplay and everything like that. So first, I actually want to talk about Portable. We're going to talk about Portable first, because I played that first, and then we're going to get to FES. So you can take my opinion of FES and throw it in the garbage if you want, since I haven't quite finished it yet. But I finished Portable, and I'm most of the way through the journey on FES. I'm just not going to talk about the answer, because I don't think it detracts or adds anything to the experience. It's just more Persona 3. Obviously, more story stuff happens, so maybe it would change my opinion of it. But that's the only thing I can't really speak on. I'm working on it, but because I played everything else here, I feel like that's fine. So Persona 3 Portable was the first one I played, first Persona game I played back when I had my PSP when I was younger. I played it a little bit after it came out, like very soon after it came out. This game changed my life. There's no other way to say it. This game was especially for younger me, and for the gameplay and stuff for when this came out. There was no other RPG that was quite like this for me. I think this is probably the game that made me love RPGs, honestly, because I was like kind of mixed on them when I was younger, because like, oh, you know, the gameplay isn't really like for kids, in the sense that I feel like kids want a little more active feedback and stuff like that, and you know, maybe younger teenagers and stuff. But like by the time I got around to playing this, I like was starting to appreciate RPGs, but it wasn't so convoluted like, you know, Eternal Punishment. So I'm not saying Eternal Punishment is that convoluted. I'm just saying for a younger person who wasn't super experienced with RPGs outside of like Final Fantasy, like this was an amazing playing game. The music is, as far as atmosphere, Persona 1's is better. As far as just music taste, this is probably my favorite soundtrack. I am a sucker for like the hip hop rap kind of stuff. Like I know I listen to a lot of metal, I listen to a lot of classical, and just honestly, I listen to a bunch of everything. I don't listen to too much rap in my day-to-day life. I like some of the older stuff, some of the older American stuff. Listen to some Japanese rap too, but yeah, I love like the hip hop rap mix of music in this game. It's so good. Lotus Juice is my jam. You have no idea how excited I is when he was on that battle theme for the Final Fantasy 15 DLC. I'm not trying to spoil Final Fantasy 15, so I'm not going to say anything more than that. But that he was on that Final Fantasy 15 battle track for the DLC. Like, oh my god, I love Lotus Juice. I'm talking more about the music before I'm even talking about the game. But imagine, put yourself in the scenario. I was like roughly the exact target age of this game when it came out, so it did things for me. I was a very moody teenager. This game changed my life, and it felt like it got me so hard when I was that age, you know. Obviously you got the female protagonist, which is really cool. That's different from FES, and all your social links are different and stuff. Male protagonist design is like iconic to me. You got the evokers are like close to my favorite way of summoning a persona. There's some stuff I like more, and I'll get to it a little later, but as far as just general party members, the evoker persona summonings are just so edgy and so cool. I love them so much. And like symbolism, you know, like facing your own death kind of thing. At least that's like my takeaway from it. Like it's so cool. Music is godlike. I love the evokers. The characters, as far as new persona, are probably overall my favorite cast. And that's not to say these casts aren't really good, but I don't know. I think honestly, it's hard to be super objective about this one, because I think a lot of it comes down to nostalgia too, and that's more recent nostalgia, like teenager stuff, not like childhood stuff. But that's still part of your childhood, you know. And I think nostalgia, in the sense that this really changed my outlook on video games and RPGs and just everything, you know, because this eventually ended up being the gateway for me playing like SMT4, which I think is the best RPG ever made, like my opinion, of course. Yeah, this really changed everything. So as far as story, I'm going to start, you know, condensing these more than I did with Persona 1. You are protagonist guy or girl, and you move to Iwatodai. My pronunciation is probably really bad. And like you're living at this dorm, and when you get there, there's some spooky, weird stuff going on. Everybody's in coffins, and there's blood in the streets and stuff like that. YouTube, talking about a video game. There's like, and like the moon is all yellow and big and creepy, and it's like, oh, that was weird. And then like the dorm gets attacked later, and like your classmate is like pulling out her evoker, and I'm gotta be careful with saying my words. But if you know, obviously, if you're watching this video, it's not like it's a big secret. I'm just saying, I'm trying to be careful about my word choice. It's not like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, only if you play Persona 3 do not that, not that kind of thing. And then like she doesn't summon her persona, she's too spooked, and then protagonist Chad Bro is just like, nah, I got this. And, that applies to the female protagonist too, because she's got no fear. Just summons Thanatos and just wrecks it. Well, summons Orpheus and then changes into Thanatos, foreshadowing. Wrecks the shadows. That's what they're called. They're the enemies that appear during a special hour in between midnight and 1 a.m. Like, can you imagine, once again, and if you're in the same boat as me, playing this as a teenager, this was hitting all the right edgy notes, But honestly, I don't feel like this game comes across as like edgy though. Like I honestly feel like the writing's very strong and stuff like that. Like I think the writing quality is better in later ones, but as far as this doesn't come across as like try hard, you know what I mean? It's just very like artful and thoughtful in my opinion. And yeah, you got this hidden hour between 12 and like 1 or whatever. Is this supposed to be between 12 and 1, or is this just kind of like after 12 and they don't consider it before? Whatever. You got the dark hour, the hidden hour, whatever, where shadows come out and everything's spooky and green and bleak, and I'm colorblind, so maybe I got the colors wrong. But so your whole goal is your school turns into this giant tower during this dark hour thing, and your goal at the moment is to climb it and see what's up with it. And I love the setup because, like, especially for a first time blind playthrough, it literally is like, what is up with this place? This place is like, by the time you're done with the game, like over 200 floors, and it's reaching into the sky, and it's only appearing during this time, and it's at the school and stuff like that. Like, it's so mysterious and such a good hook for me. Dungeon crawling is so much easier in terms of not getting lost than compared to like Persona 1 and 2. And as far as like a new player, oh man, excuse me. As far as like a new player to these games, that's a godsend. And yeah, the dungeon variety is way better in Persona 1 and 2. So if I'm being kind of objective, I'd have to knock it down a little bit for that. But like, as far as a streamlined gaming experience, this is better in that sense for sure. Yeah, there's the one thing it depends on my mood really, but sometimes I really don't feel like getting lost. I really don't feel like having to try to figure out where to go. Sometimes I'm really in the mood for that, but I'm always going to be in the mood for just making progress in the game. Sometimes I'll be in the mood to struggle harder against something. You know what I mean? It really depends on what's going on, but like I'd always be in the mood to play something like Persona 3. Yeah, like you can't get lost in Persona 3. You're always making progress. There's always story stuff happening. Obviously, this is probably what, and I don't know how well Persona 1 and 2 were doing, at least in the West, but like this Persona 3 is what made Persona nowadays. Persona probably, I don't know if it would still be around if it wasn't Persona 3. That's a really good argument you could have, because it introduced the whole social link system and the whole school life system where you're kind of living a double life between going to school and like bonding with people and making friends. It's not just students, you get to bond with elderly couples at the bookstore. I love that social link. You get a bond with a person dying at the park. That is literally my favorite social link in this game. You get to have a social link with a kid that's going through a divorce. It's like a bunch of like stages of life is kind of what, to me, that the social links are supposed to be, and you get to experience that and deal with that and interact with that. And I really like that, like symbolically. Or talking to Tanaka at night because he is the devil. Yeah, so the premise being, like you're with a group of a couple students that are aware of the dark hour and can summon personas, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. Every like full moon, every month, like a big shadow is coming, and you have to defeat it and stuff like that. And as far as characters, we'll talk about characters for a bit now. Protagonist is just your silent protagonist, but your choices are kind of a little moodier, a little quippier. I like them. If you pick female protagonist, it's a little more upbeat, a little more positive. Female protagonist has like completely different music for a lot of it, which is super cool. She gets completely different social links. Her social links feel more like Persona 4 and 5s where you're bonding with your party members, and it's a really cool change. It really is. And she has like a different weapon and stuff. Male protagonist bonds more with other people outside of the classmates, or outside of the group of Persona users, besides like a couple of them. But the female protagonist can bond with all of them. You get more backstory for them and stuff like that. Well, not backstory, but more interactions with them. Point being, protagonist guy or girl, doesn't matter either way. You got Junpei, who is the man. Junpei is so lovable. He's like your friend sidekick kind of guy. No, and this is one of my favorite things, is the fact, I'm gonna get full spoilers for everything if you're watching this, but like, even if you pick the female protagonist, you can't date Junpei. Junpei's your friend, you know? And I think it implies a little bit like, maybe if he wasn't, dealing with what he deals with in the story, that maybe, but no, you're like, Junpei's your bro no matter what. It doesn't matter. Junpei's just your bro. Yeah, so I really like Junpei. He's just like and he goes through a lot during the story, and he's jealous of you, and he has problems with you and stuff because he has a bunch of insecurities and stuff. But I really like the way the game handles it. That honestly feels like pretty natural. I know this scenario is unnatural, obviously, but Junpei has a very real feeling character development arc, and like eventually he comes to terms with everything. He goes through a lot in the story through Chidori and stuff like that. And he really like grows up and becomes like a really just good dude. And I love him in like Arena Ultimax and stuff. Yeah, Junpei is one of my favorites. He's great. You got Yukari, who I'm not big on. I think she's probably like the weakest link, but she's not a bad character. She's still like a good character. I just find her to be the weakest as far as me relating to how she is as a character, but she's still like a good character. She's very important to the overall story. She's actually got some connections to what's going on because of her father being part of like the Kirijo group stuff, which is Mitsuru's family crap. You got Mitsuru, who's like she's like a year above you, along with Akihiko. They're seniors, yeah. And she's part of this Kirijo group, which has something to do with the Dark Hour, obviously. I'm kind of talking out of order, but like her whole family is kind of the cause of this kind of stuff, along with Yukari's father being involved with some of it as well, even though he wasn't aware of all of it at first and didn't really want to be and stuff like that. I'm getting the timeline right. You got Akihiko is also, this is the problem with Persona 3. The characters are so good. Like, I like Mitsuru a lot. Akihiko is such a good character, and he's got a lot going on, and it's hard to put in words what Akihiko's like, because he's not as stern as Mitsuru, but he's still kind of upperclassman-y to like your group, but he's also kind of in his own world a lot, just trying to move on so hard from the past that is his vice, and that is the kind of loop that he's stuck in. And I don't know, he's just like, he's a really good character. And most importantly, he's like the best party member, in my opinion. His accuracy always seems really good. He's got all the debuffing skills, and he still has some healing. He still has some like multi-hitting electric spells and stuff. I think overall he's like the best party member, and I think that kind of also shapes why I like him so much, because obviously I really like to dive into these games from a gameplay standpoint, but he's just a great character, literally both gameplay wise and story wise, and he's got huge connections to the best party member, being Shinji. Shinji's my favorite character in this game, unfortunately. And again, full story spoilers, but Shinji doesn't last long. You get to use Shinji for like a month, which is a shame because he's my favorite. I cannot tell you how much I love the symbolism between Akihiko's Polydeuces persona and Shinji's caster, because if you ever look this up or whatever, like Polydeuces, so him and Akihiko obviously childhood friends and stuff like that, but Shinji's upset still that he accidentally killed Ken's mom, Ken being the kid, and because he couldn't control his persona, and like he takes stuff to try to not reduce it, but keep it under control and stuff, which has side effects and stuff, so his persona isn't quite natural like the rest of the gang and stuff, and he's kind of beating himself up over it and just trying to kind of just coast by in life. It kind of feels like that's not quite what it is, but Akihiko takes like the opposite approach of everything they dealt with when they were kids and is just going full steam ahead without thinking too hard about it. And Shinji's kind of just stuck in a rut and he's just kind of dealing with it in that way. But Shinji to me is just the coolest party member, and he's got the big axe. He just big damage. He doesn't care about using magic spells besides like evil smile and stuff and charging. He just wants to hit things. He wants to hit things hard. I love it. His English voice actor is great and really great at portraying that type of character. That he's obviously to us the audience he's like too cool for everything, but him as a character is just done with everything. He's just like whatever. He's like, I'm here because I essentially feels guilt towards Ken if I'm reading this correctly, and he just kind of wants to deal with things his own way. But it's like you know what he says, like when you try to talk to him at the dorm and stuff, he's like, whether or not I fit into your party plan doesn't matter. I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do. But yeah, Polydeuces, Akihiko's persona, is the immortal, or I guess that's how you would say, immortal son of Zeus. And again, Zeus being Akihiko's evolved persona is just amazing. And then, you know, Shinji and Akihiko are like childhood bros, not literally brothers, but like childhood friends. And Shinji has Castor, which is like the half son of Zeus or whatever, like a different parent in Greek mythology, a different like mother in Greek mythology, if I'm remembering right. But Castor is mortal while Polydeuces was like immortal. And so obviously with story stuff, Shinji ends up protecting Ken. He gets eviscerated by Takia. Takia? That was his name, right? Yeah. And so I know it's very on the nose, but I love the symbolism of Shinji having the mortal Greek brother while Akihiko had the immortal one. And then Akihiko's evolves to be was it Caesar? Wait, Zeus? Wow, I'm getting my mythology a little mixed up. But Polydeuces and Castor have a really great relationship between the two characters. Well, Castor is like one of my favorite personas of the whole series. I really, really enjoy it. So Shinji's great. You got the dog. You got Koromaru, and he's got Cerberus. Cerberus is cool. I love Koromaru. I'm using him currently in my FES playthrough. Aigis is a really interesting character too, being like literally not human, and that whole character arc she goes through, which is why I need to play the answer, because I do need to see more of that. But as far as Persona 3 and Persona Arena stuff, I really like Aigis. She's very unique in that sense compared to the rest of the characters. And I like Ken a lot too, honestly, like especially as a party member. Gameplay wise, he was really cool. I like his initial persona Nemesis. It's kind of like over the top and childish while also being like very menacing, because it's kind of so abstract that it becomes kind of creepy. Like in my opinion, I really like Nemesis. Then what is his evolved persona? Oh man, I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But yeah, I really like Nemesis, and I do like his evolved persona too. But I like Nemesis a lot, and his whole dichotomy with Shinji and stuff, with Shinji killing his mom, like not on purpose or anything, and like yeah, and as a party member, gameplay wise, Ken is super cool. And I don't think I'm forgetting anyone. I guess from a gameplay standpoint, it's really cool too with the whole Orgia mode, especially for like random battles. Just throw a Tarajaka on her and just let her go wild, and she'll just wreck everything. Not so much during boss fights, but yeah. So the cast of characters are all really cool. I like all the like this starting to get deeper with the symbolism of the personas and stuff. Not that Persona 1 and 2 didn't, but you could kind of just swap anybody out to be anything, which is a perk of the gameplay. But as far as story stuff, I feel like the Persona 3 stuff works more. And then yeah, you're trying to find out what's going on with this big tower, and then there's like another group of Persona users, but their personas aren't quite natural, and they kind of gotta like suppress them a little bit. And this is what I'm talking about, where like I like some Persona methods just a little bit more now. They're not party methods, but the fact that like when you fight Takaya and stuff, he's like holding his head in pain trying to summon his persona. His persona is so cool. Is this Hypnos? Is that what it is? That is such a cool design. Jin is completely forgettable. And then I don't even remember what his, I kind of remember what his persona was, but not even the name of it. And then obviously Chidori's super important. Medea is a cool design. has all the stuff going on with Junpei, and she obviously kind of dies and gives up her life for Junpei, and then Junpei can heal himself in battle, which is so cool. The whole Spring of Life thing, like, God, this stuff's emotional. And honestly, it still got me when I played the portable remaster. It really did. And then, like, yeah, because Strega is what they call themselves. You know, they don't want the Dark Hour to end. The main characters do want it to end. They're trying to kind of fix everything, and they're like, no, if you get rid of it, like, we'll lose our powers and stuff like that. And they're kind of taking advantage of it. So it's a cool back and forth between the two, and just having different ideals and stuff. And eventually, you know, you beat all the 12 shadows that come during the full moons, and it's like, oh, the guy that was kind of the head of you, Ikutsuki, that was kind of leading you all as far as a group, is like, oh, he was kind of lying to you, and he wanted you to beat all of them, because then they all fuse back together and start the end of the world, being like the coming of Nyx. And again, flashback to the Snow Queen quest. Not really, but also yes. And it's like, oh man, like, first time I really did not see that coming, like, whatsoever. I don't know if new players are going to see that coming. Like, I wonder how people are just getting around to playing portable now, if they're going to see that coming. But I did not at all. So I thought that was a really cool twist. And like, he's just a psychopath. It's not much deeper than that, unfortunately, but I still think it's a cool twist. And then, like, oh yeah, you beating all of them just kind of helped speed everything along, kind of. And eventually you make it to the top of the tower, and, you know, you already kind of doomed yourself. You find out that, like, death was kind of hidden in the protagonist, and it manifests itself as the boy during some of the cutscenes, and then later Ryoji, and he's like, hey, I'm kind of like the avatar for Nyx, kind of, maybe. I think I'm a little confused on that still, but his, like, true form looks like Thanatos, which goes back to the intros Persona summoning stuff. And he's like, I can either, like, you can get rid of me, quote unquote, and all your memories of the Dark Hour and stuff will be erased, and you can just live blissfully unaware that the world's about to end. Or you try to deal with it, but he's like, Nyx is wow, language. You can't defeat Nyx, what I'm trying to say. And it's like, you get the choice, obviously, if you want, like, the real ending, or either ending you can pick, but if you want to beat all the content, you got to be like, no, we'll just deal with it somehow. And I love the period after you make that decision, because everybody's just like, I wouldn't say they're really depressed or anything, like, over the top, but they're like, all like, man, what's the point of anything if, you know, the world's just going to end regardless. Like, eventually everybody kind of snaps to, and they're like, you know what? We have no idea if we can do this or not, but we're going to do it. We're going to at least try. But that whole period in between, you kind of almost just, you're still doing stuff, but it kind of feels like, what's the point? The world's just going to end anyways, kind of thing. But you decide to deal with it. You go to the very tippy top of the tower, which is so cool. I love Tartarus from symbolic point of view and stuff. And it's like the Tower of Babel, kind of. And then you deal with all that, and you fight, like, the Nyx avatar on top, which isn't quite Nyx, so it's, like, kind of vulnerable because of reasons that I can't remember. And then protagonists seals themselves away because they can't fully defeat Nyx, and protagonist kind of dies, and that's kind of how the game ends. And I haven't played the answer yet in FES, but gameplay's great. It's got quality life stuff from Persona 4. You can just equip everything in your party without going through Tartarus and stuff like that. Just sell everything on the spot. Gameplay all makes sense. You can control your party members. Persona 3 is like, portable is like A tier. I'm putting that in the A tier. I love Persona 3 portable. Wow. But I feel like there's other stuff I want to put on. I'm putting it in the A tier for now. So we're not going to talk about FES for too long, but I do want to talk about FES for a little bit. Wait, let me take another drink of coffee. Okay, so I'm most of the way through FES right now, besides the answer, so I can't talk about the answer. However, so instead of having this truncated visual novel style, you got more of what you later saw in Persona 4, with, like, full 3D world to explore and stuff like that, and, like, normal FMVs for the cutscenes and stuff. and some dialogue is more fleshed out and longer because you know they're trying to save on space for the UMD and stuff. I don't necessarily think it's all hardware. I think a lot of it was probably just due to the 1.4 gigs of the UMD space. Granted, it could be some hardware too. But yeah, so they didn't have like the full. Oh, I'm not talking about initial. This version you just should never play. Play FES or portable. I mean, if you really want to play it. But so this has the whole like 30-hour epilogue of the answer, which I can't speak on, but that's more Persona content. So you do have to. More content's never a bad thing. It's literally just an additional thing. You don't even have to do it if you don't want. So you got full 3D worlds, cutscenes. The character models are a little higher quality and stuff. Thing is though, the thing that really grinds my gears about FES, and you can still totally play it, but can't control your party members. And one of the biggest things for me in RPGs is the role-playing game aspect of the battling and you know, using my party members and deciding what to do. And you can only really decide what you're going to do, and the game kind of ends up so far my party members are a little better, but it's like everything just rides on what you're doing as the main character. While in portable, it's like you can really pick and choose your party composition because you can do what you need to do at all times, which some argue, oh, it makes it too easy, but then just like, crank up the difficulty then. I still don't think it's like an easy game. It's fair. It's very fair. But yeah, portable, you cannot control your party members. And almost a bigger gripe is just the whole equipment thing, is the fact that you have any equipment you buy, you have to go back to Tartarus to re-equip it to somebody else besides the main character, and then you'd have to go back to the police station at a different time, only during the day and not night, to go sell it back to get money. So you can't do that RPG thing that I think everybody likes to do. It's like, oh, okay, I got new equipment, I'm going to sell my old equipment to afford more equipment. You kind of have to do that as multiple steps instead. You can't just quickly equip new stuff to your party members, which is like a huge detriment to me. And I don't like the fact that I can't control my party members. They're like, part of me, you know, sometimes they're like, they're okay. And I can kind of see the appeal of what some people talk about, where it's like, well, they really feel like their own characters because they're just kind of doing their own thing. But like, the party members are really dumb sometimes, really dumb, like just straight up like healing enemies, because even if an enemy is like visually they're on fire, like Junpei will still cast Agi on them, and it's like, man, I could tell you without scanning them that he shouldn't have done that. Like when you scan enemies, like they tend to work okay, but they still will waste turns. They will just waste turns doing stuff that you would not do like ever. And so that really detracts from the experience, in my opinion, but it's still playable. Like, don't get me wrong, you're just going to have to grind more and be more over level to have a similar difficulty level to that of Persona. So it's doable, but as far as which version, now maybe the answer will change my mind, so this isn't going to be set in stone. As far as what version I would play over another, I'm putting this in C tier, because at the end of the day, this is still an RPG as well. I can control my party members in Persona 1. I can't control my party members in Persona 3. I can give them equipment in Persona 1. I have to go way out of my way to give them the equipment. Oh, don't get me started. I forgot to talk about this, the tired mechanic. The later you get in the game, it becomes less and less of an issue. But like at first, it is way too much, in my opinion. It's way too heavy-handed. I kind of just don't think the tired mechanic should exist at all. But it's super reasonable and portable, almost maybe too much, because then it kind of doesn't matter in portable. Like you only get tired once you leave the dungeon, so therefore you just clear everything in one day, and you don't think about it. So in that sense, it's like, why is it even in here still? But like, you know, whatever. But it's a little too heavy-handed at first in portable. Like you're just trying to grind, but then people get tired and then they have to leave the dungeon. It's like, it's too much in this and too little in this. But I'd rather it be too little than too much. You know what I mean? And once you get later on in the game, it becomes less and less of an issue, but it's still kind of prevalent. I feel like mid-game tiredness is kind of what it should have just been the whole time, and then maybe a little less kind of thing. But there's just a lot of things that just like are more archaic than Persona 1 and 2, both versions of 2, whatever, or Innocent Sin and Eternal Punishment. There's some things that are just more archaic than those, and it kind of doesn't make sense how that happened. But point being, either, I know I'm putting this at C because I'm really trying to not just put everything in A and S. As far as if I'm really being nitpicky about it, I would always say play portable over FES. just as far as like a new player. And if you really enjoyed the world of Persona 3, then go play through FES, because then you got the knowledge, then you can kind of make smarter decisions with your party members on what you're going to be doing, because you're going to need that extra hand, I think, if you're completely new to Persona 3. Like, if you were completely new to Persona 3, this would be much more of a struggle than if you already played Portable or had a bunch of knowledge of this going in. Can't speak for the answer, though. It is a shame that the answer is not Portable, because then this would just be like the perfect version, just to say, hey, someone go play this. Obviously, in a perfect world, we'd have these two combined, have all the graphical stuff from FES and the gameplay changes from Portable, along with like the female protagonist. That's never going to happen, I don't think. I don't think they're going to remake Persona 3 or anything. I know there's rumors, but like, why would they do that now? They ported Portable. Remaster's kind of worse than the PSP version, like, I'm not going to lie. But to me, it was still fun playing Portable again, like on my TV in 4K on my Series X and stuff, and still playing it portably on my portable computer through Game Pass stuff. That's kind of just a me experience. Still, the remaster, you can still play the game start to finish. You can play it on your TV. It's fine. So with that, not talking about dancing yet. Talk about Persona 4. Now, Persona 4 Golden obviously does have extra story content, but it's not as detrimental, in my opinion, as far as overall how the game is compared to like maybe Persona 5 Royal, or I can't speak on FES, but like say maybe like Snow Queen Quest compared to this. To me, this is the least important story additions. Now, I do like the extra epilogue stuff, but like as far as all the Marie stuff, it's not that important. I think like if you played the PS2 version, like you're fine, you're good to go. And they play mostly the same, to the point where like I don't think I need to talk about the PS2 version compared to Golden. Obviously there's extra stuff, and it's like extra stuff is always a good thing, even if it like you don't have to interact with any of the Marie stuff if you don't want to. Extra stuff, in my opinion, is just always good. You don't have to interact with it if you don't want to. I like the additional social link with Dachi and everything. So, you know, if you're this far in the video, so we're not going to talk about the PS2 version specifically. We'll just talk about Golden. But I have played both. I played Golden on the Vita. I played Persona 4 on the PS2. Played Golden on Steam when it came out. So there's going to be a lot to say about Persona 4. This is also going to take a minute. Wow, this video is so much longer than I thought it was going to be. I'm going to take a quick real life break. You're going to see just a quick skip. So, all right. So, Persona 4, we're just kind of going to be ranking Golden. But, like I said, not this. These versions are very interchangeable overall. And I know, like, there are additions and stuff. But, so as far as your setup, your Chad Narukami, well, you can name whatever you want. But, you move into a small countryside town, and you're moving in with your uncle and your little cousin, and this is already what makes this one of the most comfy games ever, despite the heavy subject matter that happens sometimes. I grew up in small countryside that honestly was smaller and more countryside than even Persona 4, but this really resonates with me, especially when I played it when I was younger. I was like, yeah, this is just like my town. You know what I mean? And I've heard other people talk about this before with their experience. You know, if you grew up in the countryside stuff, there's just something that's like really, really comfy about a small countryside town. So the setup overall, and for most of it, it's a lot more positive than Persona 3. Persona 3 is very bleak at times, but not so much so where it's like over the top, but it's like, it's just, it's dealing with the themes of death a lot, and that's just kind of its theme. Persona 4 comes out swinging on a whole different note. It's like moving with countryside is going to be slow and laid back for a little bit, you know? And honestly, for a lot of the game, it still is, despite the serious circumstances going on in town. So you got, talk about characters real quick, because you kind of, all the party members aren't so, they all kind of just happen in, man, how am I trying to articulate this? There's nothing super story relevant like what happens with like Shinji in Persona 3, or when you get like Nate to join in Persona 1. It's not like this weird stuff that's happening, or like Tatsuya in Eternal Punishment. You know, it's just like everybody's kind of normal, everybody's kind of here, you know? So main character is whatever you're gonna make him out to be. Obviously it's different in like the arena games and stuff, but then you got Yosuke, your like best bro kind of character. He's lovable. You got Chie and Yukiko. They're like two childhood friends. Yukiko's like quirky and weird, but like in a charming way. Like her sense of humor is garbage, and I can totally relate to that. Chie's a little more masculine and stuff, but they're, you know, they're good friends. They kind of balance each other out. She likes like kung fu and whatever, and meat. I like meat too. You got you got Kanji. Kanji's the best party member, objectively. Maybe not gameplay wise, but yeah, he also hits super hard. I like characters that hit really hard. If you couldn't tell already, they just do big physical damage. Kanji is super relatable for me. Now I've never like, and I don't know how YouTube would like these words, but I've never questioned my identity like he has. However, what was always a thing for me growing up is the fact that like I have always liked a lot of very feminine things, and sometimes, you know, when I was younger and in school, that got me kind of picked on and stuff like that, because I was like I love reading like romance manga. I you know, I've always tried to kind of like take care of my appearance and stuff like that. And when I was younger too, I would paint my nails and all this kind of stuff, because I just going for that kind of look, you know. I have long hair and all this kind of stuff, and like a lot of the things that I like drama stuff, like as far as TV and stuff is concerned, like just very feminine things. Like, and as a kid, that was a bit of a struggle, because like honestly, I was embarrassed by it. Like, if I'm being completely honest, Persona 4 is going to be the game that's going to make me get the most real with all y'all. Wow, did you see how American and Southern I got right there? But no, like seriously, I was like really embarrassed and uncomfortable with the things that I liked as a kid, and I felt like I wasn't like a real man because of it. Like a serious, like I'm not even kidding. Like I felt like this before I played this game. So when I played this, I was like, whoa, I'm like, you mean I can just like romance stuff and like drama and like, you know, stuffed animals and all this kind of stuff and cute things, and I can still be a man while doing it? This kind of, and like no joke, this really kind of like shaped my outlook on what it was like to be a man. And as I grew older, like just my own experiences, and for somebody in my position, it's like, and like I said, when I was younger and being a teenager and being emotional and all this stuff, it's like yeah, I felt like I wasn't like a real man, and obviously people would pick on me and stuff for it. It's like, whatever, that was so long ago. It's like it's all in the past. But as a kid, that stuff feels very strong and very important and real and stuff like that. So having a character like Kanji just spoke to me like no other character, and like probably any other piece of media could. It's like a lot of these struggles that I really resonated with. And I'm like, as I've gotten older, it's like, as I've said to other people, because even like at my old job and stuff, before I got a little more friendly with some of the people there, like I would get like teased and stuff for like some of the stuff I'd be reading during my breaks and stuff like that. And it's like some of that stuff would still kind of lead me back into adulthood, and it would get under my skin a bit. But like at that point in my life, I was kind of already like, you know, and I said this a lot, I'm like, being a man is just doing whatever you want to do. And I don't mean that in the sense of like be a bad person and commit crimes and stuff like that. It's just like, hey, if you're an adult man and you're taking your break and you want to read Sailor Moon or something, do it. Like, that's your interest. There's something manlier about saying, like, I gotta watch my words, but like, F the status quo, and I'm gonna enjoy whatever piece of media I want to enjoy, even if I am like a man or whatever, you know? I feel like that's what being a man is really all about. It's just sticking to your passions, no matter how they may appear on the outside. And don't twist my words. And I do not mean anything illegal or illicit by this. I just mean, like what I said, if you want to read Sailor Moon, you want to read Sand Chronicles and stuff, do it. That's what being a man's all about, you know? So I relate hard to Kanji, you know. I can really identify with a lot of this. And then you got Naoto, which also has issues of like gender identity and stuff. With Naoto, I don't think they wrote the character as somebody is supposed to be having a gender crisis or identity issue. It to me, it's more of just trying to be like a woman in a man's world and how hard that can be. However, just like with Kanji, even if some of that is kind of murky as far as where he leans and stuff like that, it makes a lot of sense why people of certain identities and stuff can relate to those struggles of the characters, even if they aren't the exact same things. You can find you can relate yourself to a similar struggle or something, or just find a little bit more of acceptance, being like, yeah, okay, so like Naoto's not, you know, I don't know what words I can say, honestly. And it's not because I'm trying to like say anything bad. I'm fully behind everybody of any identity or orientation or whatever. As long as you're not doing anything illegal or illicit, again, like big asterisk on that. But like, as far as just anybody just being themselves and just going through what they're going through, like I fully support that. And I personally can't understand how hard that would be. I literally have no experience with it. So I could see why somebody seeing, while like Naruto and stuff might not be struggling with an identity like that, I could see why people would come in and see some of that and be like, you know what, you know, it's okay to, you know, not be what people wanted me to be and stuff like that. I can be what is comfortable for me and still accomplish what I want to in life and still just be myself in life. I could see why that's a relatable point. I know some people get like really heated about those too, and I don't think this is the point where we should be getting heated about it. Just like, hey, if people resonate with that, that's cool. Even if something's not directly in there, if they just see a character and like, yeah, you know, I feel like I can relate to that, even if it's a different struggle, you know, that's great. There's nothing to fly off the handle off. Like now, some people definitely strongly, I feel like, misinterpret what those characters are doing. And honestly, whatever, if that's their opinion, that's their opinion. Even if that's not what quite is going on in the game, whatever. And again, like, it's also important to remember this game was from like what like 2008, and it's from a Japanese company. Like, regardless of how much they were going for, it is like some of that stuff is already like insanely progressive for 2008 Japan. Like, that's kind of crazy when you think, like, no, I'm not saying it's the most, you know, progressive game in the world, especially maybe by modern standards, but as far as like a Japanese 2008 PS2 game, yeah, oh yeah, it was doing stuff. That does not to say maybe a couple of scenes and stuff might not be questionable, but like, I feel like for most people they're not going to care. It's just going to be the overall theme and the message of it. It's like, you know, like phenomenally forward thinking in that sense. All right, so we're talking about characters. I know I got a little bit of a tangent, but you kind of have to with this game, you know. The characters are very, very deep in this game, in my opinion. They're like, there's a lot to them. There's a lot they're trying to say, and I feel like they really are really focusing on your party members in this game and their struggles and because that literally is what this game is. So, you know, you're in the small town, and there's there's a moiterer on the loose. I feel like if I mispronounce that hard, it's probably okay if I say that. And like, people are going in the morning and like hanging upside down on antennas and stuff in the countryside, and it's not good, and it's foggy and it's scary and it's spooky. And then there's rumors. God, I love rumors. Obviously, I love this whole like rumor urban legend stuff. Where like, oh, if while it's raining and you turn your CRT TV specifically, it seems like, because those are spookier, but if you turn your TV on at midnight, you'll see like your soulmate while it's like raining outside and stuff, and it's the Midnight Channel. And like the protagonist and stuff, you know, they try it out, and it's like, oh my god, there actually is something there. But it's like, you know, and like I think I don't know what makes it come about, but like the protagonist, like, I'll just call him you, because that's what other arena games and stuff call him, like sticks his hand in the TV, and like it goes through, and like this whole thing happens, and there's like a world inside the TV, and like there's this bear. His name is Teddy. What is his name, like Kuma in Japan? Isn't it literally just bear? Like, pretty much regardless, or you got like Teddy or you got like bear. I think his Japanese name's Kuma. I swear, because I played a lot of Arena Ultimax in the arcade, and obviously that's just like the Japanese version. I swear it was Kuma, because I actually played Teddy like what's it, competitively for a minute there, actually, like Shadow Teddy. But yeah, point being, there's a weird world inside the TV, which I love that setup. It's so just, it's odd and it's weird, and like, especially, like, I will say this is one thing I think the PS2 version is slightly better with, but again, not important enough to rank it separately. But like, the intro movie is and music, I feel like, is better at conveying something kind of weird going on. I just kind of like it better in that sense. Not that the golden opening movie is kind of garbage in my opinion compared to the PS2 versions. But like when I played Persona 4 in the PS2, I still had a CRT and I'm living in the countryside, and I, just because of like how poor my sleep schedule and stuff, well, it still is, I would spend a lot of time at night just like playing games and stuff like that when I couldn't like do anything outside or whatever and it was dark. So I did spend a lot of this time playing like by myself at night with a CRT. And not that this is a spooky game, but it's like it really fits that setting, you know, like a lot. Like the music is so unbelievably good in this game. Like all of the town music, the dungeon music, the battle music, it's all incredible. So yeah, you got Weird World inside TV. There's a bear in there, and some of what's inside the TV is like warped reflections of some of the stuff in the real world. Some of it's just completely like fantasy and stuff like that. And stuff happens, and like Yosuke, your bro, like his like crush is picked off by this murderer, and it's a big thing. And then you notice that like people that you know are starting to appear on the Midnight Channel, and when they do, and you can find them in like the TV world, and if you go save them, then they won't get eviscerated. So so like you kind of going through your party members in the motion in the motions of like, so okay, they appear on the TV, and then they're spouting some crazy stuff, and then you go in there and they're kind of dealing with like their deep rooted psychological issues, their shadow self, like Jungian psychology, obviously, and kind of come into terms with how they really are as a person, and just being like, you know what, that's okay, that is who I am. And at first everybody, you know, they deny it. You got to fight like bosses based off their shadow self. So it's all really cool, honestly. I know I'm skimming over it just because I don't want this video to be 6 hours long. It's already getting ridiculous. But you get all your party members, you deal with all the stuff they're dealing with, and eventually you get to the point where like you find out who is the guy who's doing the bad. And oh, but no, you don't, because it was just like all the one big red herring. And unfortunately, some people say it's super obvious. I didn't think it was super obvious. I happened, because, you know, I was younger when I played Persona 4. I was stuck on, I think I was stuck on the Namatame boss fight or something. Or maybe I was like, I just wanted like a little help with figuring something out. I was reading like a guide, and I happened, just the way I was like scrolling through the page or something, happened to see what the next boss was, and it was like named, and I was like, what? I'm like, no, and I got myself spoiled, unfortunately. But personally, maybe I'm just dumb and oblivious, but I don't think I would have found out that Adachi was the bad boy all along, on my own, you know. So I think that decision would have been hard to make. But so you find this Namatame guy, like, oh, he's the guy that's throwing all these people in the TV world and getting them all spaghettified and stuff. But it's like, oh, but if you actually think he is the one that's doing it, push him to the TV, then you get the bad ending, or one of the bad endings. And it's like, you got to realize that, oh, he actually doesn't fit the bill for all of them. He was trying to actually save these people. I will say that Heaven Dungeon for Nanako, and I know I'm skimming over, but this is a video for people that have played these games. And I know I went way too hard with Persona 1. I really did. That Nanako's dungeon is so good. The music is, oh my God, it hits me in the feel so hard. And the fact that if you screw this up, that she pretty much like dies is like, Jesus, it's rough. It's really rough. Yeah, Heaven is such a good dungeon. The Namatame fight's great. I like that you can control your party members and stuff. And I skimmed over Mitsuo too. I think his name was Mitsuo, the one kid that was like taking credit for it. And he has a very like old school style dungeon, and like it's some, I think during his boss fight or whatever, they show the little demon icons from SMT up on the top or something like that. And his fight was like a big baby kind of thing in like this pixel armor. The whole Mitsuo stuff was great too. Oh yeah, that Void dungeon. I love that dungeon too. Yeah, these dungeons are really good. Like, maybe not from a gameplay standpoint, but thematically and music wise, like I love the dungeons in this game. Bathhouse is my jam too. They're all really good dungeons. Yeah, the Heaven Dungeon's great, the whole Namatame stuff. But the things that what really gets me thinking and really gets me going is once you, unfortunately, I got to spoil it for me, but once you figure out who the real big bad is, to me it's like I'm like, oh my god. And it's really cool to replay this game now, because then you can kind of look at all the scenes and be like, ah, you know, this does make sense or whatever. But doofus cop guy is the real big bad, and he was him being a bumbling buffoon was all an act or whatever. I really like that. I actually like, I really like Adachi as a character. His dungeon is the coolest dungeon in the game, in my opinion. The whole Magatsu Iniba. Yeah, I think my pronunciation was actually not too bad that time. There was somebody, I really wish I remember the channel name. And if you know what I'm talking about, if you want to know, I'll link it. There was some video I watched recently where somebody was essentially gushing over that dungeon, and it was a really good video. And I'm glad to see other people like appreciate that kind of specifically. It's such a creepy and weird dungeon. I really like it. Yeah, I think Adachi's a really good villain. And I'm not saying he's the best written or anything. I know some people really like to poke fun at how he's written and stuff like that, but like to me, and so he's a really good antithesis to you as the player character who spent all your time in Iniba making new friends and bonding with people and getting all these different personas because because you're the wildcard user and you're getting them through your bonds story-wise and stuff like that. And then Adachi's the guy who also got sent to the small town who just didn't do any of that. He just felt miserable for himself and kind of blamed everything around him besides himself for feeling the way he felt, even though he kind of got dealt the same type of cards, I guess, as you did. However, Adachi's a working adult, you know? It's kind of maybe different for him. And like not that I would ever anybody would actually resort to cartoonish amounts of violence like Adachi did, but like at my last job and stuff, when like things were getting like really bad and stuff, and I was just like spending like 6 days a week working and being on third shift and stuff like that, like there's a part of me that can kind of relate, not in the sense, like obviously not cartoonish amounts of violence and the psychopathic things that Adachi does, but that like once you start getting grinded down that much for like years and years and years, you do start to understand the frustrations of that kind of lifestyle and how you felt like you got absolutely nowhere, and you do get bitter, you do get resentful. And I'm not saying that's the right way to be or anything like that. I'm just saying part of me, and I feel like part of other people can relate to this, and this isn't like, I know some people make fun of people who say like, oh, I could relate to Adachi. Some people are just trying to be edgelords and stuff like that. Be like, oh, of course I relate to the literal like murderer in the game. It's like, no, it's not that. It's just like, it's like that feeling of like really bad bitterness of being stuck in like a really bad life cycle. Like that I can relate to. And like, it's hard to get out of that rut once you dig yourself into it. And a lot of it is just external factors that you cannot control, and you're just stuck doing what you have to do to get by. And that can get really dark really fast. And that's the kind of sense that I really like Adachi from a thematic point of view. And again, with his relationship with the protagonist and you kind of being the person to take on all these opportunities that you can. Adachi's kind of the guy that's just rejecting everything at this point because he's just done with it. The boss fight with Adachi is so cool. Magatsu Izanagi is one of the coolest personas. I love it. And this is what I was going to say. The way Adachi, it's just like a lot like Taka. The way he summons his persona is just so cool to me, because it's like, you know, all the party members, like they do the little thing with their tarot cards, and Adachi's like holding his head in pain. He's just like, it's just so painful for him, or I don't know why, but it's so edgy. I just love it. It's just so cool. His persona being like essentially the filthy, gross version of your starting persona is really cool to me too. Especially, I don't know like how deep you want to get with the analysis of this, but obviously Adachi's a big part of Persona 4, and to me it's like one of the biggest sticking points after you're done with the game. Like both all like the friends in the game that you have and stuff like that, which like honestly these characters leave such a lasting impression on you, and the town and the music and everything. It's just such a, it feels like a very like a whole nother world to explore, and the characters feel very real and like multifaceted. But yeah, Adachi obviously sticks with you in the long run too, because there's a lot to think about. It's a lot to chew on. And I like the fact that, so unlike the protagonist, where it maybe if he didn't bond with anybody, if you really want to start thinking about story stuff, that maybe he would have just still had Izanagi by the end or whatever. And that is what Adachi has, because he didn't bond with people. But like his Adachi is so, or his Adachi's Adachi. Adachi's persona is just, it's very powerful still, considering it's like the starting persona of his. If you want to really start thinking about it like that, it's just, he's so warped and so like psychotic that even though he's not bonding with anybody, his just initial power is still as strong as like your whole group. And obviously like the boss fight isn't as hard as it could be and stuff. He doesn't actually, because I believe there's data that he was supposed to target your weaknesses and stuff like that, but he doesn't actually do it and stuff like that. Would have made the fight like a lot cooler. The music during that boss fight is so good. What is that, like New World Age or New World Order or something like that? Like whatever that track is so good. And especially fighting Adachi with his persona and stuff like that. Like, God, I love it so much. And then this also kind of has the whole thing that I liked about Persona 1, not to the same degree, but it's like that whole extra length of the ending. If you like don't decide after everything's said and done, you deal with all the fog stuff and Amino Sagiri, or if you for some reason know what to do, which I think I actually did do this on my own. I just happened to like talk to everybody, and I think I did just click on the gas station attendant without realizing it or thinking about it. Again, I was like, this was a long time ago, so I was like a young teenager. That like you get the true ending, and you find out this was all started because of like the gas station attendant, and you got the persona power by like shaking hands with them and stuff. I love that sort of just pull out of nowhere. Like I know it is kind of out of nowhere, but then you can also connect the dots. And again, when you replay Persona 4, it's fun to kind of just look at the times where you do see something suspicious going on with them, and that they're like always out during the rain and stuff, and you can talk to them, and I'm pretty sure they might have a portrait too of their own. I can't remember. I think they do at first and stuff. And then like, I don't know how you would figure that out besides just spamming talking to everyone the last day because you don't want the game to end. But yeah, that whole extra ending thing and finding out the real reason for everything, it's cool. It's cool. But it's also, I feel like if I'm being really critical, kind of starts the problem that 5 had as well at first, is like the whole like big extra baddie reveal at the end that's kind of inhuman. It's like inhuman. Kind of just feels almost generic after the more personal struggles against an actual human like Adachi. I feel like that hits harder than the Izanagi stuff. Not that it's not cool. I like the dungeon and stuff. I love the fact that the dungeon at the very end is the same one you see like in your dream in the beginning of the game, just like less shrouded and stuff because you're starting to see through the fog. You know what I mean? That dungeon's really cool. And Izanagi's fine and stuff. I really do like the whole like the whole like a revelation that it was all that single simple interaction at the beginning of the game that kind of started all that. I love that kind of stuff. Again, I know some people don't, but that's my jam. I love being tricked like that, I guess, you know. But yeah, I feel like the Adachi stuff hits harder. Not that I could say it would be better to end the game there. I think about that more often than I do like all the Izanagi stuff. So music's great. You can control your party members again. Amazing. The gameplay loop's great. The persona fusion's great. Everything feels very balanced and everything's really good. Marie stuff, I can take it or leave it, but to me, it doesn't detract from the game because you don't have to do it. But if you do decide to do it, you get an extra dungeon. The dungeon is cool. It like takes away all your equipment and you have to pick up new equipment while doing it and stuff. I just feel like she doesn't really add anything, but I do like the extra epilogue. You get to see the characters just like with new designs and stuff, and it's slightly later on. But like, it doesn't detract from the game. I don't think it adds much either, but it's just, to me, when I think about Persona 4, I'm thinking about the main party group and I'm thinking about Adachi. And yeah, Persona 4 left a huge impact on me, just like everybody else who has played it. I would have to put Persona 4. It's such a comfy game. And I really want to put it like here. I really do. But just, I'm putting it, it's that good. I have to. I can't in good faith put that at A. I feel like even if I have more nostalgia for Persona 3 and I like the music and the themes and stuff, this is just such a comfy game, and I love it, just about everything about it. I have to put it there. But I'm gonna say these are kind of in order of how I feel then. So let's do it like this. Persona 1, Eternal Punishment, then P4G. And like I'll put Innocent Sin above the PSP version of Persona. And then this is kind of just chilling here. Oh my god. We'll get to Persona 5 soon. Persona 4 Arena. I mostly just want to talk about Arena Ultimax, but I did get Arena when it came out. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. I know, and I've heard this opinion from a couple like Atlas YouTubers and stuff, and it's totally understandable that a lot of people they do not like these games. I don't think these games were for them, and I think that's the problem. Is such a shift gameplay wise and stuff, and the stories are nowhere near as good as the actual games. However, if you've seen anything on my channel before, and I know I mentioned something earlier, I am a big fighting game player, like competitively and stuff. So obviously these being really good Arc System Works fighting games, they feel a lot like BlazBlue. That's incredible for me because my two favorite genres are JRPGs and like competitive fighting games. So the fact that this existed was incredible. And at this time, I always play fighting games and I was always super into them, but I didn't get really competitive about them until like maybe last 3-4 years or so. But still, when this came out, I still played a lot of fighting games and I still kind of got it because I did play BlazBlue. I just wasn't like the best at it, but like I understood that I was starting to get the depth of fighting games a bit. And this is such a good fighting game. Sprite works incredible. I like Labras as a new character. Music's great, but that's like cheating because it's a lot of Persona 4 music. But for a fighting game, it's sweet music because it's really good JRPG music. You know what I mean? Arc System Works kicked so much butt with this release. Labras is cool. The story is weak. The story is really weak. I still think it was fun, especially at the time, to see more of like some of my favorite characters, and you just kind of got more of it. But like the Labras stuff is cool and stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like some of that was really cool. The way you play through the story is garbage. You see so much of the same content over and over again. But the Labras chapter is obviously the best chapter because it just is by a landslide because it's the only thing with something like really going on during it. But as far as this is a pure fighting game, this was so much fun when it came out. Granted, there's like no reason to go back to it now, but as a fighting game at the time, this was really good, really good. Thing is, there is zero reason to play this now. There is zero reason to play this now. I have like maybe it'd be fun to just stream it at some point because I'm one that likes to see the differences in different versions of fighting games and stuff like that. Even if this is seriously just like more so a really good updated Persona 4, it's more than that. But it's like I still see the beauty in playing like Street Fighter 2, even if all the other versions exist, and then playing all the intricate versions in between and stuff like that. Like I find the beauty in that. However, if we're putting down a game to play with the bros, we're not playing Arena. We're playing Arena Ultimax. You know, there's no reason to play this. So going in D tier, I hate to do it because this was such a good start, but nowadays I'll replay any of these games. I have no reason to touch this because if you want the story, you can just play the DLC in Arena Ultimax. There's no reason to play this now. It's a great game, gameplay wise, terrible story. And the problem is, I feel like this is probably trying to hook a lot of people that like Persona 4 that maybe weren't as into fighting games. And you're not going to do that when your story sucks that bad. Like there's no other way around it. The story's just boring. It's really boring. Comparatively, like it's the Labras stuff is cool, and I still enjoy the story to see what happened. But I'm just talking about if this is a Persona game still, if you want to talk about it like that, like in my head, I kind of don't think of it as one. I always think of it as like competitive fighting game. But if you're talking about this as a Persona game, this is awful. This is awful compared to these. You know what I'm saying? This fighting game, it's good. But then again, this exists. So let's talk about this. So this is, I know nobody was like happy to see this get re-released, but like me and my dudes, we were like screaming over it essentially. I'm exaggerating, but we have probably put more time into this now than we did with like the 360 and PS3 versions. Probably because it's so accessible now. We have the rollback netcode. We can just play it on PC. I can bring my portable computer over and stuff like that. It's so much more accessible now. And the biggest thing. So, well, let me get into that in a second. But so story-wise, this is much better than Persona 4 Arena. It still has its moments that are kind of drawn out and bland, but the overall story feels a lot more impactful. You get way more Persona 3 stuff going on with like Sho Minozaki. I love him as a character. He's the, what do they call him, the rule smashing pun machine. I'm big on puns. I'm big on edgelords. I'm big on Persona 3 references. He's got that persona because of the plume of dusk thing, like I guess, even though he's a human. God, I love everything about Tsukiyomi. Such a cool persona. I love Sho's my jam. And I like the whole essentially tower thing again. That there's a lot of Persona 3 going on in here with the Persona 4 cast, and I really like it. And I like and I will say something about this bleeds more into this. I love the grown-up Persona 3 cast. It's genius. It's beautiful. I wish there was a fighting game that played like this, that had characters from all the Persona games and maybe some SMT and stuff too. Something like that would be awesome. And the one thing I will say, it's a shame that they went so hard with the story to the point where they didn't have characters like the Persona 3 protagonist or Shinji or something. I would have loved to see what they would have done with like Shinji as a fighting game character, as like a real, because this isn't some garbage arena fighter. This is one of my favorite fighting games of all time. As like a competitive tournament playing fighting game person, this is one of the best ones ever. So, and the re-release is so important. So story, while still being like bland in some parts, is leagues beyond Arena, and you can still play Arena story in here. You get the Adachi DLC, and you get more Adachi, and he gets out of jail to go kind of help out, and it's awesome. I like seeing more of it. It's great, even though I feel like he deserves no redemption, but it's still such a fun thing to see. I feel like as a Persona fan too, I was still pretty into this because there's a lot of Persona 3 stuff. The focus on the story is way heavier this time. And yeah, it's just a way more Persona 3 going on mixed in with the Persona 4, which is awesome. Sho's a really cool antagonist. It's a lot of fun. I'm not saying he's anywhere near as deep as like actual Persona story antagonist and stuff like that, but he's so much fun. He's a lot of fun. So this game was great on the 360 and PS3. The thing is, the arcade only update at the time, like the 2.0 version, was a game changer. It changed a lot. Like, it did change a lot, but it was like there was a couple really important changes, especially to how shadow characters work and how like their cancels work and stuff like that, that literally just changes the way the game is played. And the problem is that, now I don't know about Japan, but as far as us in America, we just never got it. Now, the thing is, I got a taste of it because I'm lucky enough that my local arcade, had the arcade version. It had the arcade machine. And so I got used to that 2.0 update as like an adult that plays fighting games competitively. I'm like, God, this is so awesome. I'm like, I wish I could play this at home, like in a normal manner, but you can't until that re-release happened, which is based on that 2.0 version, which had some really important, really big changes and stuff like that. And it was literally, this is one of the best fighting games like ever. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, obviously everything's subjective. It's my opinion and stuff, but it is one of the most fun fighting games like I've ever played. Like me and my friends, we put so much time in this game. I've played this so much. I've played it online a lot. The rollback update's great. And the characters are so fun to play as in this game. There's a big varied cast. The fact that you can play as Adachi, man, that's awesome. And the one thing I do like is the fact that like as a fighting game, there's like status effects like an RPG, and you can inflict like shock, you can inflict fear, you can, I think, freeze opponents and stuff like that. You can burn them. I love the kind of attention to detail of that stuff. But more so like I love playing as these characters, like as a fighting game character. They did really creative and unique things with these characters. Sho is really fun in both his versions. Tsukiyomi is one of the coolest personas. I really like playing as Adachi. Overall, not that you're asking for my opinion, but my favorite character is Ken and Koromaru, because I really like puppet characters. That's like the closest thing you're gonna get to in this game. They're really, I like seeing like grown up Ken too. I know he's not like an adult, but like teenager Ken with Koromaru. It's great. I love this game. Is so good. And I know people rip this game apart as Persona fans, and I understand where they're coming from. And it's just, I just want to be, I wish they could feel what I feel about this game, but like you're not going to if you don't play fighting games competitively. So the thing is, I'm being objective about it. Like I'm being objective in the sense that this is my opinion. I'm being harsh about my opinion, but this is my opinion, you know? This is my opinion. This goes here. I think this game, for me, is even more important than P4G. In fact, I feel like I don't want too much up at S. I really don't. But I don't know where else I could put this. I already know there's only going to be one other game I put up there. I hope this doesn't seem like too much of a cop out. I really hope not. I think I might put 5 games up here. I think I might. I don't want to do that, but I can't in good faith put this in A when I think it's one of the best fighting games of all time, you know? And I do play this more than P4G, because I mean, you can replay RPGs, but you're not constantly replaying RPGs. I'm always playing Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, you know what I'm saying? It's one of the best fighting games, and I'm a fighting game, competitive fighting game, and JRPG fan. This game was made for me. This game was absolutely made for me. I love the shadow system in this game. It's this game, but like twice as good and relevant. You know what I'm saying? Because there's just no reason to play this when this exists. So Arena Ultimax, I love it. I love it so much. I put so much time in it. It's such a good game. I also understand why, if you're just a Persona fan, you wouldn't like it. But being a fan of both genres it's so good. So let's move on. Now besides getting to this, we're probably going to be speeding up a little bit. Let's talk about Persona Q. I'm a fan of the Etrian Odyssey type gameplay. I'm a fan of dungeon crawlers. And having the Persona 3 and 4 cast together in an RPG is really cool. I kind of wish we got that initial version that they were like testing out. But this end product is really good. It's good. So I love the team customization, like, and being able to use Shinji the whole game. I love it. I love equipping the sub personas and everyone. The dungeon crawling is rough and the balancing is bad. It's a very mixed game for me. I know some people really don't like it because they don't like the Etrian Odyssey style dungeon crawling, and I actually like that. But I feel like the balancing's bad in this game. I feel like it's the dungeon crawling is really obtuse, like way more so than any of the like Persona 1. Like, I don't feel these games are like obtuse. You just have to beat your head against the wall a little bit, but you'll always figure it out. This game, there was times when I was playing, and I played it like as like I was older at this point. Like, I wasn't stupid when I already played like SMT4 when I played this. Keep that in mind. And I loved SMT4. I feel like this game's really obtuse, trying to figure out where to go and what to do, and like it really killed the momentum of the game for me. I like the new characters. I like Zen and Rei. The story is nothing to write home about, like, whatsoever. It's got that arena problem where the story is just such a nothing. The interactions between the characters are good, but they kind of reduce the characters to being kind of shallow and just like archetypes of themselves, which is, it's like, okay, I understand why there's a huge cast, but it would have been cooler to see like a little more growth, I suppose, or something, or interaction that wasn't surface level. But I also don't know how they would do that if you like already have like the Persona 4 cast kind of figure themselves all out and stuff, you know. But the gameplay's good. It's just the dungeon crawling's rough. I do not like the fact that you have to pay to heal all the time. It almost de-incentivizes trying to grind. Like, not yes and no, but I just feel like RPGs should always have some sort of save haven, so you have some sort of point to stand on to keep grinding and keep getting better. And this game kind of charges you for that. Like obviously in-game currency, but like I feel like that's a big no-no. I feel like if you have that in the middle of a dungeon, like Trish's Fountain and stuff, like that's fine. But having your hub be a pay to heal service is garbage. So I really like that you can have the P3 protagonist, you can have Shinji and stuff like that, and you can mix and match. But like this game's rough. This game's rough as far as its actual dungeon crawling is concerned, which is 90% of the game. The story is not good. Zen and Ray are cool, and it's cool that they're not Persona users and stuff like that. I do like using them, but like this game's a D tier. I almost want to put an F. I like never want to replay this, honestly, like ever. I'm gonna put in D for now because this isn't an awful game. This is just a mediocre as heck game. So let's talk. Let's talk about P4 dancing. Yeah, well, I want to talk about the dancing games together. We'll talk about these in a second. So let's talk about Persona 5, Persona 5 Royal. These games, again, I feel like are similar enough. Obviously, now P5R is the biggest improvement out of any of the Persona re-releases. This game makes this one obsolete completely. So, and at that point, I don't even want to bother ranking it because it's not like a Persona situation where these are like kind of very different. It's just like there's no reason to play this, and it's not like this is a bad game now that Royal exists, but Royal is just like every addition to it is a great addition, like even more so than P4G, where it's like the additions are like you could take it or you can leave it, but it's still Persona 4. It doesn't take away anything. While Persona 5 Royal is like everything that's new about it is just better, like objectively better. Gameplay wise, it's better. Story wise, I love the new stuff. I love the new social links and stuff, or confidants. There's no reason to talk about Persona 5 as itself. We're going to talk about Persona 5 Royal. So this is like, you know what? I don't want to talk about that. No, we're going to talk about it now. If you want to dip out after Persona 5 Royal, that's fine. This video is probably long enough, but I'm still going to talk about the rest of these. So like this game, as far as modern Persona, it's the best one. I'm saying that right now. It's the best modern Persona. And see, this is the thing you have, and I'm not trying to like pick on people. Obviously, that's not my thing, but I don't like the people that are like, say, really into SMT stuff and people that are like me that really appreciate the old school stuff. And they're like, Persona 5 is garbage. It's nothing. It's not like SMT anymore at all. Like, or people just making fun of people that would play this and not touch like SMT 5 or something like that. It's like, shut up. Like this game is so good. You can't say that this game is good and not see how good what this is doing. You know, I like RPGs. I like Persona RPGs. How would I enjoy this or this and not see what this is doing? You know what I'm saying? I just don't get it. I feel like if you like one, you would like the other. Or, you know, if you really don't like the social life stuff and you really don't like the school life stuff, I still don't see how you could in good faith say this is garbage. It's not. You could say, all right, the social stuff is a little too much for me. I just want my dungeon crawling. All right. That makes sense. I can feel that. This is not trash though. This is still like objectively one of the best RPGs of all time. This got people to start playing SMT. You had people working backwards after they played Persona 5 and finding Atlus's back catalog and stuff like that. This made new SMT fans. This game is the best thing to happen to this franchise. Like objectively, I think this game is the best thing to happen to Persona 3 started the better momentum, but this cemented it. So I played Persona 5 and Royal multiple times. I played the new ports that came out. I played on the Series X. It was amazing. Played it portably on my portable computer. That was super cool too. I'm sure people that got on the Switch, like it was awesome to play this portably, you know? So I played Persona 5 when it came out. That was a long wait, especially from the Japanese version. So Persona 5 Royal is just better Persona 5. You got Ren is canon name, at least in the PC version if you change your language settings. You got Ren, that's just what I call him because I'm lazy with my character names. And he's a criminal. And I like this setup a lot because it's like it just does the opposite of Persona 4. You're going to live in the cozy countryside with your uncle. This is like you're a filthy criminal and you're gonna go live in the city, you're gonna be confused and you're gonna like it. It's just such a difference, and I really enjoy the tonal whiplash of starting both these games. And it's more like your main character is a criminal because he tried to do the right thing and stop somebody from getting like bad things happen to them. This game has some dark stuff, surprisingly, like especially the newer royal content. Some of the newer royal content, I'm gonna get to that in a bit. It was giving me Persona 1 vibes, and I like, if I don't know if that makes sense, but like to me it started getting into like a bunch of psychological themes that started to me feeling like it was harkening back to Persona 1. I loved that. I really think the new content was some of the best written stuff they've done in a long while, or not best written, but like some of the most intriguing, and like I really wanted to see what was happening next. Like, not that the main game didn't do that, well, this was really doing it for me in the third semester and stuff. Obviously, full spoilers. This whole video has been nothing but spoilers. But so you try to stop this politician from being bad towards this woman, and you get a criminal record because of it, because the justice system is screwed up, just like real life. And so you're living with isn't he just like your parents' friend? I don't know if he's actually supposed to be related. I don't think he's actually related, but like in his coffee shop's attic, and it's like dusty, and it's just rough up there, and you're a filthy little criminal scum, and you're gonna go live up there in his attic, and like everybody's mean to you and nobody wants to be around you, and the school doesn't like you and stuff. And I like it. It's not over the top, but it's like, man, this is rough, this is unjust, and it gets your blood boiling. This is wrong. You make some friends. Well, you make a friend, and you're trying to get to school one day, and like you end up at a castle, and it's like, oh, okay, took a wrong turn somewhere. Like, I know it's the big city and all, but big castle. And like, you see your one teacher in there, and he's like dressed really funny, and he's like acting all like weird and egotistical and crazy and over the top and dramatic. And it's like, there's like dungeons, and there's students in there, and they're like freaking out and stuff. And you're like, whoa, like what was that? And you escape and stuff like that. And they're like, that's weird. You get to school, whatever. Talk to the teacher more a little bit, and you see some cutscenes. He's kind of a bad person, he's like abusing students and stuff. It's actually pretty serious. Like, a really, like, Persona 5 is good about tackling some serious subject matter without being like goofy or over the top about it, and I also without being like too dark. It doesn't dwell on dark things just to try to be a mature game. It handles things pretty tactfully, I would say, in my opinion, but it's got some serious subject matter that it's trying to talk about. So that stuff happens. You kind of find out that, oh, it's some sort of weird cognition thing from the teacher, and he thinks this school is his castle, and it's something similar to the TV world in Persona 4, essentially. Except these dungeons are way better than Persona 4 as far as gameplay wise. Thematically, it's on par. Gameplay wise, 10 times better. It goes back to like Persona 1 and 2 dungeons, where the dungeons are actual like real human made dungeons that aren't like generated. The dungeons are great. There's a lot of set pieces, a lot of puzzles and stuff you have to do them. The dungeons are super good. The music is the best. Like, man, I know I said Persona 3's music was the best. I think it's more of like, I like it the most, but if we're talking about like a compositional point of view, like objectively, this music's better. This music's so unbelievably good. The battle themes are great. The palace themes are great. Like everything is so good. Music's great. So yeah, like you go cognitive world. Oh, sorry. And like what you're seeing in there is like how your teacher views himself as and stuff. He's like the king of the castle, essentially. He's abusing students and stuff. And you get like locked up in there, blah, blah, blah. And then like you essentially awaken your personas in this game by having a spirit of rebellion instead of like facing yourself or facing your death. It's just like your will of rebellion. Like they rip off their mask, their like facade for public life. I love that. It's really cool. I love the first like awakening scene for, oh my god, excuse me, I'm so sorry. For the main character, and he like rips off his mask, and it's all like gross and stuff like that. And Arsene is super cool. Persona, I love how in this game that their outfits change while they're doing all their like persona business. I think that's a really cool touch. Yeah, so I love how they summon their personas and stuff and how they like awaken them. I still think as far as new Persona games, I like Persona 3's the most as far as how they do it, but as far as it making sense thematically. I feel like Persona 5 is like really cool. The outfit change stuff is awesome. I really like that. So there's the cognitive stuff happening, and then you find out from this cat. It's a cat with its own persona, which is amazing. And they bring back the ranged weaponry from Persona 1. It's like fake and cognitive, but I really like that change. The fact that you're negotiating with demons again. Yeah, some of this really felt like some Persona 1 and well, not the weaponry stuff from 2, but like Persona 1 stuff again, honestly, and the demon negotiation. I really like that. And the fact that they were like demons again, not like just shadows. Like they are shadow kind of things, but like they're like demons again. Like, yeah, harkening back to some older Persona stuff. So like the cat tells you that you can like change this person's heart, quote unquote, or their cognition by stealing this treasure they have inside their cognitive palace thing or whatever. And again, I'm speaking to the people that play this game, so you know what I'm saying. I don't want to waste your time too much. So you deal with all like the stealing their treasure thing. It's always exciting to both to find out what their treasure was going to be and how their palace was going to be and their boss fight and all this stuff. This game is so good about hooking you the entire time. It is so hard to put this game down, both gameplay wise and story wise, because you always want to see what happens next. You always want to fuse new personas and get new abilities and see what abilities your party members are going to get and everything. The baton pass systems are really good. I like the technical system. This game is so fun to play from a turn-based RPG standpoint. It's one of the, to me, this is as fun to play as like SMT4 or SMT5. The gameplay is so good. It's so tight. It's a little too easy if you're playing on normal stuff, but like I did like a hard mode playthrough or whatever, just using Arson, and that was so fun that I could do that and like customize Arson a lot and just do all this stuff. Did the same thing for Persona 4 now that I'm thinking about it, but it's really customizable. The gameplay is such a good and fun loop. Like it does such a good job of making sure random battles aren't boring. I know a lot of RPGs struggle with that. This game nails it. I never minded being in a random battle. They're always like very worthwhile. So yeah, like you can steal someone's treasure, change their cognition or whatever, and yeah, it's really good about hooking you. Like, oh, what's the next villain? Oh, what's the next person going to be? What's their palace going to be? What's the treasure going to be? And you're gaining more party members. And I'll talk about party members probably now. Protagonist is cool. I love his design. I like the code names and stuff. Joker and all that. Arsen's super cool. Obviously, you can use whatever persona you want. His outfit thing is cool. Ryuji, I like a lot. He's just ape meathead guy. But like he's fun. He's a good dude and stuff. He has some trouble with the cat in the middle of the game, but it's all good. I like his like Captain Kid persona and stuff, and his evolved personas. It's very like the whole pirate thing. I feel like is kind of fitting for him. His metaverse outfit thing. That's what they call it. Metaverse. So like it suits him very well. He's like it's like a rough biker gear kind of almost looking thing. I'm okay with On and however you want to pronounce her name. Just nothing crazy about her. I'm not like, it's kind of a Yukari situation where I think she's like important, she's good. It's just not a character for me, I guess. But I don't think she's a bad character. It's just it's not doing anything for me as far as personality wise and stuff like that. I know it's not yet, but Haru's kind of a waste of space. She doesn't do like anything important ever. I know stuff happened like during Okumura's palace and stuff, but like I just feel like if she wasn't in the game, it wouldn't have changed anything. Like I think her design's fine and her personality's like okay, but Haru just doesn't do anything for me like at all. And I know some people really like Haru, and that's totally cool. Like I can see why. It's definitely not my thing. And I know I went out of order there, but Futaba's I like Futaba a lot, like my first playthrough. I feel like she grates on you a little bit during like a second and third playthrough, but she's okay. I still, and I think at first they were good about tackling some pretty serious subject matter with her. I do like that and stuff. But she's good. She's good. She's not great. I'm starting to sound like I don't like women. That's not what's going on. That's not what's going on here at all. I swear to God. Because Makoto is sweet. I really like Makoto. I think her being so close to obviously her sister, who's a prosecutor trying to investigate your phantom thievery, is like I really like that dichotomy and her trying to kind of get over her people pleasing tendencies to try to do some bad things to help out the group, like, you know, try to like steal information with that flash drive and stuff like that. I like Makoto a lot, and she's a sweet from a gameplay standpoint as a party member too. As far as normal party members, obviously Yusuke is the best one. That is not, there's no argument to be had there. Yusuke's personality is the most entertaining thing to watch. I really like him in I'm not trying to skip ahead, I'm not going to talk about it yet, but like the one line when I was replaying Strikers and like Yusuke is upset that you can't like do a barbecue right away or whatever. He's like, I'm gonna slice the metaverse to ribbons, and Ryuji's like, it's not a physical thing, dude. Like, I love that stuff. They wrote him. He's really funny. He's really entertaining. As far as like an English dub, Matt Mercer is my jam. He did a really good job with that. Yeah, Yusuke is the best normal party member. So I'm gonna talk about the story a little more. So you kind of deal with different criminals, I guess you could. Yeah, different criminals. Who's the second person? You do Kamoshida, your teacher, and then it's not the bank dude already, but I am literally it's Madarame. It's Yusuke's mentor who's stealing art. That palace is cool. All the blooming villain theme too for the boss fights, so good. You do with the Madarame stuff, that boss fight's really cool and royal with the different like a copying himself with different elemental things. That's cool. And then you had I think the next one was the mafia dude, and that was okay. I wasn't crazy about him. However, I was still hooked super hard during that. It wasn't like it was a bad point. It was just like maybe the weakest one, which isn't saying much because this game's so good. But I feel like as far as a villain, he was the least compelling. But that doesn't mean all the Makoto stuff that was happening during that kind of just kept the hype going. I feel like I'm like skipping one, but I'm not sure. Obviously the Akumuro stuff happens. There's something in between. I swear. I just replayed this game last year. I feel like I'm forgetting like a whole palace, but I can't think of what. And during this time, there's this palace thing. I don't know what you want to call it. That's like optional and kind of like Tartarus and Persona 3 that you can be doing mementos, and it's like in the subway system, and it's going like it's got that same mystery that Tartarus did, and that's what hooked me on it. And the mementos loop in Royal with the new additions like Jose and all those rewards and stuff is so good. They were so smart about that. Mementos was definitely like one of the weakest parts of the original game, and I still enjoyed it, but they made it like genuinely fun to go down there in Royal. Yeah, the whole mystery of this being like a bottomless pit that you keep going down. It's like creepy subway tracks and stuff like that. I love the theming of Mementos and everything that you kind of scraping by throughout the story, getting a little farther. It's a good loop. It's the Tartarus loop again. So yeah, you do the stuff with Akumuro, and I swear there was something in between. This is going to drive me nuts, but I don't remember what it was at the moment. But we're just kind of talking about overarching story anyways. So, and then you've been like stealing people's treasures, and they've been having like a change of heart and like stopping their criminal activities and apologize and stuff. And then you do the Akumuro stuff, and who is Haru's dad, and I just don't care about Haru. It's so sad, too bad. And like obviously what they're talking about with her story wise and like the arranged marriage stuff, like yeah, that's rough, and it's a good topic to discuss and stuff. Oh, wait, do I really have that? Oh, the whole time I was there. That stuff's like, you know, a good discussion to be having. But all of a sudden he dies after they steal his treasure. It's like, whoa, that didn't happen before. Everybody's having like second thoughts and stuff, and there's been like stirrings of this metaverse user in this black mask, and it's like, what's up with that? And especially a first time playthrough, it's like, whoa, what's going on? I know everybody says this was obvious. I didn't see it coming. You never see it coming. Yeah, I'm just the most oblivious person to have ever existed. I must be, because everybody says this, and like Adachi was so obvious. I didn't see it coming at all. So like you see that, okay, this black mask person unalived Akumuro for realsy to kind of try to make it look like your Phantom Thief group does it, And this is where the game starts getting really good. It's like, okay, what's going on with that? And so then like Phantom Thieves are starting to get kind of under pressure and stuff, and Makoto's sister's really looking at them hard, even if she has to plant fake evidence essentially to convict someone. Like, she's willing to do it. So she's kind of distorted too. So she has a palace, and it's like, oh yeah, she has the best palace in the game, especially in the original game, because then, you know, you're getting blackmailed a little while this is happening too. There's been this guy that's also been wanting to get on your case. It's kind of working with the prosecutor, this detective, this Naoto 2.0, Keshi, and he's talking about justice. He's talking about the good guys. Like, these Phantom Thieves, they're criminals. They're criminal scum. Get back in the attic. And he's like, he's gonna find out who they are. He's like, they're not on the right side of the law. We gotta talk about the law. You gotta go through the legal channels to you know, prosecute people. You can't be doing all this Phantom Thief stuff. So Akechi blackmails you because he has photos of you going in the metaverse essentially. And he's like, I think my partner here is going too crazy with this. And like, he's like, my justice wouldn't allow me to convict somebody wrongfully. So he's like, you're going to help me infiltrate her palace. He's like, all of a sudden, I just found out what these were. And he's like, you're going to help me change her heart, because I know you guys can do that. And then you guys are going to disband. And at this point in the original game, I was like, I already loved Akechi, and the fact that he was a party member now, I'm like, all right, he's my favorite character in the game. I'm like, I love his toolkit. It's like, you know, he's got the Almighty, he's got Curse and Bless, I believe. I believe he had both of those. And my favorite thing about him is his weaponry. He's got like essentially a lightsaber and like a toy ray gun. And I love the implications of this later being like, if you think too hard about it, which is all I do about Persona, is think way too hard about it. Like, the whole cognitive weaponry thing is just about how much control of the cognition you kind of have, and how you're portraying something, how other people are seeing things. And Akeshi's understanding of cognition is just better than yours, to the point where he can make a toy ray gun and a lightsaber seem like real weapons. I love it. And also, at the time, they're kind of going for someone who's maybe a little naive and a little childish, and I feel like his whole like almost superhero looking gimmick and Robin Hood really go for that. But when you're thinking about it, and I like his Phantom Thief outfit being all white, and the symbolism that I didn't understand at the time, but about white crows and all this kind of stuff, and calling him Crow, even though it's not typically a white bird. And the thing that I really should have saw coming when I first played this is like, why does he have what's pretty much like a Tengu mask? And in some cultures, if we're talking about like Pinocchio and stuff, that's like the long nose is symbolism for lying. How did I not see it? The pancake line flew right over my head, by the way. That did nothing for me. I forgot about it by the time I got there. You could probably tell by how I'm summarizing stories. That was in one ear and out the other by the time it happened. I was just like, Akeshi's cool. And yeah, I love the I think they call it the Prince outfit when you're switching outfits. The white outfit. I love the ray gun and stuff. I love the Tengu mask looking thing. Robin Hood is my jam. I like Robin Hood from a story point of view too, because it aligns with my beliefs a lot. If you know, I really like Robin Hood, like a lot. So Robin Hood's super cool. So that dungeon and the whole dichotomy between Makoto and her sister during that dungeon, and the whole casino thing, and like rigging the game and all this stuff, the boss fight with like the blackjack stuff. Is that blackjack? Is that the one where you got to pick the color and the, I don't know, I'm colorblind. That whole boss fight using Akechi throughout the dungeon, the casino themes, and just the casino dungeon, the music, like, oh my god, like the original game peaked at this point for me. But in Royal, this is a high note for me. And then you deal with that, and Sai as a boss is cool, and I like that weird twisted form she takes that looks like a Silent Hill monster, and how she's literally trying to cheat to beat you at first, and you kind of have to play by her rules for a bit. That stuff's amazing. This game is going so hard at this point. And so you're doing all this, and obviously this is how the intro of the game plays out. I forgot to even mention that the intro is so good at leading you up to this moment and keeping you hyped the whole way, because like, you know, first time play, you're like, what's going on with that? Like, I want to see how, like, what's going on with this intro thing. The fact that, like, oh, somebody ratted you out, some member of your group, and like the real world police are in the cognitive world arresting you, and it's like, what's going on with that? And somebody ratted you out. And when I first played it, I'm like, it's probably Makoto. Again, I'm dense. I'm very dense, apparently. I'm like, it's probably Makoto. It's Makoto's fault. She's probably having cold feet or whatever because of her sister being the prosecutor. So then you're like, that's when like the beginning of the game starts, kind of, and then you're like in real time now. And then, you're getting questioned and stuff like that. You're trying to tell Sai what's going on, because that's kind of what's happening in between. You're actually talking to Sai in between these palaces in like the modern timeline, instead of going back a couple months and stuff. And you convince her to like that you're not really who's to blame for all this, and you're like, you have her do some cognitive tomfoolery with like a phone or something, and Akechi comes in and he's like, hey, time to go Betty bye time. It's like, oh my god, Akechi was the one that sold you out. And now that I'm saying all this back, like, yeah, that should have been super obvious. He was totally the odd one out, but he's like, yeah, he's the one that sold you out. He's gonna put Joker into the forever sleep. It's like, it's bad stuff. But oh, you tricked him. And I love the moment with all the cutscenes happening where you get to see all the little, like, the moments that were like kind of glossed over in the first half, and now you get to see the full context of everything that everybody was talking about regarding Akechi and stuff. And it's the same type of thing with the Izanagi thing in Persona 4, but like on a grander scale, not a grander scale as far as cosmically, but as far as a story point, because there's more of it going on. It's just like, for me being dumb, I was like, oh my god, this, and then this happened. I was like, oh my god, I didn't see that. The pancakes, what? That's crazy. And like, then you get to see that, like, in reality, like, Futaba bugged his phone and stuff like that. You figured out all this stuff. So really, you were in on it the whole time, even though you as a player didn't know. And so then you end up tricking Akechi and making him think that he got Joker, but it's really the cognitive world, because the dungeon thing will look the same in the cognitive world, because Sidon distorted in her mind and all this stuff. It's all so good. Akechi was played like a fiddle. And then normally, then that's kind of when like the last dungeon happens, with eventually you getting to Shido, who is the one that kind of gave you your criminal record. He's a politician. Man, I love that. I love being able to stick it to a corrupt politician. It's great. In video games, obviously. I really do like that, especially I feel like it's good commentary that I feel like not enough video games maybe talk about, and it's something to talk about. And I feel like we're getting more of that nowadays, but especially like Japanese video games talking about some corrupt political stuff. I don't know. It's a good open discussion to try to have, and I think Persona 5 does it. Obviously, everybody's like a cartoon villain, but it's still tackling real world things in exaggerated ways. I like it a lot. I enjoy it. Like, Shido's kind of boring, but I feel like he's a really good antithesis to Joker, as far as, here's this Joker's been like screwed over by corrupt adults, and he is the big bad corrupt adult himself. It's a good leading up to point, and I love his palace being like a ship that's keeping all the rich afloat while Japan is sinking. I think that's really cool symbolism stuff. I really enjoy how gross that palace feels, like, with all the rich people and stuff just not caring about everything that's going on with Japan as a whole. They're just concerned about keeping themselves afloat and keeping connected to Shido politically and stuff. So that stuff's cool. I like the mouse puzzles you have to do during that dungeon. I'm upset that you couldn't use Akechi anymore. He was my favorite party member. But then you get the best part of the original game for sure, is you get to meet with Akechi again, and he goes full mask off, and then he reveals to you the Black Mask persona, even though you kind of already know this at that point, but you get to see it like for realsy, and you get to fight him, and then you get to, I have to say this, the Japanese dub is fine, like, don't get me wrong, but Robbie Damon is my jam. He was great as Prompto. He's great as Akechi. There's other role. Robbie Damon voices I don't know, I can't remember his name, but he voices that main character in Hi-Fi Rush. I really like Robbie Damon. I like his work a lot. He is so good as Psycho Akechi. Like the way he's screaming the lines and stuff is so good. It does so much for me. And like when he's screaming Loki and stuff like this, oh my god. So I love the reveal that, oh, Robin Hood wasn't like his only persona. Here's his like real persona, and it's Loki, you know, like the trickster god. So I should say that Loki's always been my favorite demon, my favorite persona. And the fact that we have like a main persona user with Loki now, oh my god, it did so much for me. And Loki's design as 5 is like peak. It's so like uncomfortable to look at. It feels like I don't know, it feels slimy, it feels wrong, it feels like I don't know what I'm looking at. I love it. It's like hard to see what it really is, kind of thing. I don't know, it's great. I love Loki. I love Robin Hood too. I love both of them. That boss fight is great. I love angry screaming Akechi so much. You have no idea. I love the Black Mask design. I love all of it. He's angry. And then he goes the way of the dodo, and he is gone after that. I love him screaming that you're nothing but addict trash. Oh my god. Robbie Damon is a legend. I love all this stuff. That's where the original game peaked for me. Cheeto stuff's still cool. It's a tough boss fight and stuff. And then after all this, you realize, oh, like it didn't really do anything. Like people don't care that Cheeto confessed to his crimes and all this kind of stuff. It's like people just kind of don't care. And it's like, what's up with that? And then as you working your way through mementos this whole time, you kind of figure out that this is the palace of the collective conscious. This is the palace of everyone. So then that's how the normal game ends, is you go farther and farther down mementos. And this part, you know what? I know I said like I peaked with the Akechi stuff. I really liked Akechi, but this stuff was a lot to chew on mentally. I've really enjoyed the like bottom memento stuff where you find out like all the people that you changed their heart and they're all willfully imprisoned. And it's like, you didn't grant them freedom, or you weren't trying to grant them freedom. You didn't just make them like atone for what they did, make them feel bad. Them confessing and being locked up took away their freedom, and they enjoyed that because they no longer had to decide what they needed to do with their lives, and they were kind of like okay with that after being like in prison. So that stuff was like a huge revelation. It was really cool. The whole, you know, it being like the People's Palace, the whole twist once you get to like the Holy Grail is insane. The whole finding the door that looks odd and stuff, and talking about, oh, there's like a great evil locked in here, and then I can't remember which order this happened in. I can't believe that I don't, because I just replayed this, but excuse me. The whole twist with Igor being Yaldabaoth and not actually Igor was insane to me. That was so freaking cool. And it, you know, explains the whole change of voice thing too, because I'm pretty sure, unfortunately, I think that Igor voice actor passed away, and I think that's something to do with it. But that was so cool because I literally did not see that expecting. If anybody tells me you saw that coming, I call BS. There's no way. I mean, maybe you did, but like I really think that was a really good twist. I really enjoyed that. Because you know, they haven't done any like Velvet Room twist, you know, that seemed like it was a safe space from plot development, you know, like that was just where you do your persona stuff, you know. So having that happen at like the room you were going to, and it was really in like the bottom of mementos and stuff, God, that was so cool. So that kind of stuff happens, and I think it's implied that Yaldabaoth was like kind of chose like Akechi to represent chaos kind of thing, or implied, or just symbolism or something, and he wanted to see the world go to chaos and stuff. And I think there's a bad ending where you can choose to agree with Yaldabaoth and just keep being a phantom thief at expense of like the world, essentially. And that's kind of a cool ending. I like those bad ending kind of things. So you do all that, and then like the real world's all infected with cognition stuff after you beat this Holy Grail thing, which is like collective unconscious stuff. Because everybody kind of just doesn't want to make choices anymore. They're just kind of content and don't want to strive for anything. And so then the real world starts looking all memento-y and creepy, and the phantom thieves are like disappearing, but then they come back, and I actually don't remember why, but they kind of come back, and they're kind of real again. It's a cool scene and stuff. Then you go and you beat Yaldabaoth, and Yaldabaoth's really boring. Honestly, I don't care. The twist with Igor is cool. Anything after that, I just like Yaldabaoth is nothing, you know. It's just there's nothing interesting to talk about with Yaldabaoth as a villain in Persona 5. I think the design's fine and stuff. It's just these big god things don't do anything for me really. It's different when, you know, in SMT and you're fighting like a big godly being, but that fits more thematically with what SMT is going for, because those kind of are games about that, where Persona is more about like the people to people stuff, and I feel like the big SMT style bosses kind of detract from that. Honestly, I feel like stuff like Pandora or Nyarlathotep is kind of a better fit because they're kind of more woven into the general narrative of the earlier games rather than, or like again, like I feel like it's one of those things where like Akeshi and Shido are more memorable than Yaldabaoth, just like Adachi is more memorable than like Amino Sagiri and Izanagi, you know. But it's still like the dungeon's still cool. The music's great. The whole big ending with Sentinel, if I'm pronouncing that right. Oh my god, I hope I am. Like that stuff's still really cool and stuff. I'm not trying to say it's like bad. It's just it's the least interesting boss in my opinion. But it's a fine way to end the game and stuff like that. But I still think the dungeon before it was the most interesting, and that was kind of the same problem with Persona 4. No, Persona 4's final dungeon is cool. I just don't really care about Izanagi. However, Persona 5 Royal really rectified this in a big way. So they added some new characters. You got this Sumire? Is it Kasumi? I don't remember which one's the real. Kasumi's the fake name. Sumire is the real name. Or what? No, but yes. So they added her. She's like a whole new Phantom Thief, has her own persona and stuff, but she doesn't really help out too much. Now, here's where Royal was such a cool playthrough. So you got this new counselor guy, Dr. Maruki, that comes in after the Kamoshida stuff to like talk to the kids and stuff after the Kamoshida stuff. And I'm not trying to change the subject, but I believe, unfortunately, I think that voice actor, he passed away, I think, last year or something, or maybe the year before, which is a shame because I think his performance was really good and I know I'm pretty sure he did some other stuff that I know too. It just off the top of my head, my memory's not that great. I know he did the Maruki stuff in English, and that's a real shame. I really liked his performance stuff. He added a lot to the game and a lot to Maruki as a character and his emotional range and stuff like that. It's a real shame. But yeah, so they added Maruki and they added this Kasumi girl. And what I was thinking was going to happen is like, because I saw a little bit before Royal came out of like this weird white palace and Akeshi and the Black Mask was in your party. And like, I didn't spoil myself too much, but I like a little taste of what's coming, you know, and there was no context with it. So all that did was just get me hype. I'm like, what's up with that? I'm like, that's nutty. And that's all I really knew going in. So I thought like what was going to happen is that like maybe there's going to be an extra dungeon or something in the middle, and that, or like, yeah, something like that. And like, I can't remember exactly what I was thinking, but like, and that Maruki was going to somehow help reconcile your relationship with Akeshi or something. I thought that's what was going to go on. And then you have Kasumi, and she does a couple things. I like how, you know, you're playing through the whole intro thing again, and you get the Kasumi stuff, which is like, okay, this is different. Like something's going on here. I like this. This is cool. You get that going on, and then like midway through the game, I can't remember exactly how this happens, but like you end up in this weird palace, and it has like no name and stuff, and you don't know who the ruler is, and the music is so good. That piano playing is awesome. Piano melody is awesome, and you're with Kasumi, I believe, during that, and it's like you only get to go a little bit in there, but it's like, and it happens like in the middle of the game, and it's like, oh, that's so weird, and then it's kind of just like, well, let's just move on from this for now because this isn't really our target. Like, of course, other people have palace and stuff, but if he's not harming anybody right now, and it is what it is, you know. But whose palace could this be? And you know what's going on? What's going on in such a strange palace? like, man, they got me hooked so hard. And then the fact that Akeshi's confidant is like night and day in this game. The fact that you actually have to go out of your way and do it, and the confidant is completely different, really ups it for me. As far as, now, I already liked Akeshi. I know a lot of people were saying, like, how am I supposed to feel like Joker and him are friends when it's just like story interactions? Like, so this really fixed that problem of you are going out of your way to spend like actual personal one-on-one time with Akeshi and getting to know him as a character better, and just doing stuff with him and playing pool and going to the bath and like just like trying to spend time with him in person, going to the jazz club and all this stuff. And I cannot tell you how like tense and cool the scene was in like the rank 8 thing when he's like, you know, I'll be honest, I hate you. And I'm like, whoa, like he's saying the quiet part out loud. And like, this is so cool. And then like you like fight him in the metaverse and stuff, but he's still using Robin Hood, you know, he's not completely, but there's like, that's when they're kind of telling you like a little early that like, hey, something's up with him. Like, so he's like, yeah, you can kind of brush it off as like, oh, he's kind of telling you that, yeah, he does not like you, but he's gonna work with you. He's not a bad guy. He's just like, he's questionably angry. But it's like, oh, obviously I already know what he's going to do in normal Persona 5, but it's like, oh my god, that got my gears turning. I'm like, oh, like what's going on with this? This is interesting. And so you kind of do all the normal game stuff. You bond with Dr. Mark. You talk about psychology. You bond only to rank 5 with Kasumi, and I actually thought that was just going to be it. And her sister passed away and stuff like that. And she's like, what is she, a ballerina? Yeah, something like that. And only rank 5 confidant for her, and she doesn't help you normally really at all, because like, yeah, she has the persona power, but she's not interested in being a Phantom Thief, which is cool. I was like, what's going on with that? I thought she's just gonna be like a party member, but like she's not. So all this stuff happens, and if you rank up Kashi and Marky and all this stuff, when you get to the Shido's palace again, you're all like, you know, like you're like, hey Kashi, I still have your stupid glove that you threw at me, like you owe me a duel. And he's like, you're an idiot, I don't actually like you, but okay, whatever, you're a weird guy. And it's like, okay, that got the gears turning. I'm like, what's going on? And then oh, okay, then you do the Yaldabaoth stuff, right, okay. And then normally how Persona 5 ends is like, you know, you turn yourself in so Sai can get evidence for like Shido's crimes and all this kind of stuff. But you do the Yaldabaoth stuff, and then Akeshi walks out and he's like, no, I'll take his place. You just need somebody to confess to the crimes, right? Essentially. And it's like, oh my god, I'm like, my anime boyfriend is alive. I'm like, what's going on? And then you just go back home. You just go back to the cafe, and then, you know, you wake up and, oh, you have that weird dream in the school, and you're still in like the prison attire and stuff. And you're like, oh, I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, this is starting to feel like Persona 1. What's going on? And then you wake up and like reality's weird, and people that are dead are alive, and like Morgana's a human, and Wakaba, Futaba's mom, is like alive, and Akeshi's alive, angry, and honest with you. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, this feels like Persona 1, some weird alternate reality stuff, which, as I told you at this point, probably, I don't know, like 2 hours ago. Oh my god, that I love that stuff. So this was hooking me so hard. This was already better than the Yaldabaoth stuff. Like, the Yaldabaoth stuff just wasn't a clean conclusion to me, as far as my interest, I suppose. But this stuff was hooking me hard, and more Akeshi, that's all I ever wanted. And playable Akeshi with Loki, oh my god, this is doing it so well for me. And so then, yeah, the dead are back to life. There's weird shenanigans going on with people. What else was going on? You had like, you had Yusuke still hanging out with Madarame and stuff like that. Like, everybody was just like happy-go-lucky, and like Kasumi was kind of a little not super affected by it, and Akeshi and Joker definitely were like, something's wrong. And like Akeshi calls you and he's like, hey, like, something's wrong here. He's like, they just let me out of jail. And he's all like super passive aggressive with you, and I love it. Robbie Damon did such a good job. He is so good at conveying that type of snarky bitterness and anger and stuff. And he's like, he's condescending to you. He's like, he's treating you like you're like you're lesser than him. And I like, but like he also, like, he still sees you as an equal. He's just like, you're a dumb little baby. Like, and I'm angry with you, but like I have to respect you. Like, I can't quite put into words, but I love his performance. I love the writing. Ikeshi is so fun once he goes full mask off, but I feel like you have to build up to that. If Ikeshi was just like that from the get-go, it wouldn't be nearly as interesting. But having him pretend to be goody two shoes, kind of Robin Hood sort of guy, and to go full on psychopath is like, it's great. And the fact that he's like a chaotic good force in the third semester is really fun. It's such a fun concept and stuff. So trust me, once then I'll talk about Ikeshi more in a second, obviously. Then you find that palace thing again, and you go in with Kasumi, and you get to use her as a party member, like for real now, and you get to use Ikeshi, and you're in the weird palace again, and I love like the Showtime attack. They added Showtimes, but the Showtime attack with Joker and Ikeshi, like I almost never skipped that animation. I loved it. The whole, like when you're summoning Loki and Robbie Damon's like screaming like, "To me, Loki," and all that kind of stuff, and it's so good. I love Ikeshi. I love the edgelords. You know, Ikeshi's my favorite little edgelord. Like all that stuff's great, and he's a very interesting party member from an RPG playing point of view too. I love his toolkit and stuff. And I love actually using Loki in battle. Kasumi's persona stuff is really cool too. I like how she has like a high focus on trying to land criticals and stuff. It's cool. So all that stuff's going on. You kind of have to talk to your party members and be like, hey, you know, do you really want to live in this reality? Like something's weird about this, you know, maybe you should like not. And then you find out Dr. Maruki's behind all this, and he found a way to use like the collective unconscious to alter people's perception of reality. And he has a persona, and it's oh my god, I forgot the name of it, but it's super cool. It's like a big throwback. It was a demon that was like in like SMT9. A very strange pick. Oh my god, I really like his persona. I can't remember the name of it. His persona essentially can like alter reality and stuff like that, and he's using like mementos to do it, and he's essentially giving everybody a good life. So it's like, this is what makes Maruki so interesting. It's like, I know people have said this to death at this point, but I also just want to share my 2 cents on this. It's just, everybody's right. Like Maruki is such a great antagonist. He's not a villain. He's not a villain. He's not a bad guy. What he's trying to do is give everybody a good life. The thing is, it's like, you have to ask yourself if you want a fake life that's good with no hardships, or a hard life that's real that has hardships. And it's like, I don't think there's a right answer either way, honestly. Like, you could talk about this all day. Like, yeah, you could say like, oh, well, you're just taking the easy way out. But like, if you're still living your life and it's just better, how is that bad? Then also you could be like, well, if you want a sense of accomplishment and you might need a little bit of hardship, you know, it could go either way. And Maruki's such a good antagonist because he's not a bad guy. He's not trying to do this to hurt you. He's not trying to hurt anyone. He's just trying to like right the wrongs of the world, but not in like a psycho way. He's like really trying to make sure everybody's happy with what they're doing. So I like that. You have to talk all your friends, essentially be like, hey, stop living the good life. Do you want to rebel? Sort of thing. It's like, but it's going to be hard and it's going to suck and you're going to have to let go. Especially with like Futaba. I think Futaba's the hardest one. It's because like, you're going to have to remember the fact that your mom's dead and you're going to have to live with that. Like, that's rough. That's rough. And it's really good character development for all of them. So they're like, you know what? No, like, we're not going to do this. So I like the fact that you can at like maybe midway through the dungeon or so, can't quite remember, that Maruki gives you a choice to either accept as reality or not. And the first time I played Royal, I'm like, yeah, I'll accept it because I really wanted to just see the cutscene. Like, obviously I finished it normally, and I really like that like bad ending because it's so like bittersweet and good, and like you're hanging out with Ikeshi and everybody's just like happy. And then after doing that bad ending, I still wanted to like finish the game for real. I have to go with the knowledge that I'm gonna decide that that's not what we're gonna do, and we're gonna have hardships in our life. And it's like, man, that's rough. That's like, it's really rough, especially after seeing how good that ending is, kind of, you know. But like, you know, semantics both ways, whatever. My favorite part probably, oh, all the Kasumi stuff, and then you find out that really she's just taking Maruki changed her cognition to take on the persona of her dead sister because she feels like it was her fault that she passed away, and she's like very obviously distraught over it. So she's kind of taken on her sister's persona as Kasumi. That stuff again, that was reminding me of Maki a lot. Honestly, that was really giving me Maki kind of vibes of like this shattered psyche and taking on a personality that's not yours, sort of thing. I enjoyed all that. She has like a mental breakdown at one point. It's great. It's honestly really, really intriguing writing, and again, it's like really ramping up how much I just want to see what happens, like so much. So yeah, the Kasumi stuff's great. Then you can finally actually max out her confidence. It's like, that's why, because she wasn't really being herself. And they change her appearance a little bit and stuff like that. It's great. But my favorite part of probably all this is when, you know, like, and Maruki just talks to you in like the normal life outside of the palace, just trying to talk to you about what he's doing. He's not trying to like bring you harm or anything like that. And he's like, and he didn't even want to tell you at first. He was like, I just want you to, like, I have to tell you at this point. He's like, I don't want to hold this over you, but if you defeat me, essentially, you know, Akashi's not going to be around anymore. He's like, the only reason he's around is because you wanted him to be, essentially. He's like, and if you know, change everyone's cognition back to normal, he's gone. And, you know, he leaves or whatever. He's like, just think on it. I don't want to hold it over you. And Akashi's like, you know, yeah, I can't say what I want to say, but he's essentially saying like, you're weak and you're dumb if you let that change your mind. He's like, I don't care if I disappear, kind of thing. It's like, that's what I want. That's what we're doing. He's like, I don't care if it ends my existence, as this like an entity in this universe. He's like, no, we're doing it. And if you don't do it, you're weak. I love that. He's like, he is so convicted in his ideals of justice, even if they're not great, even if they're like tainted. He's like, he's like, you are dumb and weak if you don't do this, even if it costs me my life. It's like, you are going to do it, and he's so disappointed if you don't do it. I really like that. It's a really strong moment for Akashi, and I think that's when, if you agree, that he gets his third tier persona, which is like the what Robin Hood is actually based off, like the real person or something, like Hero Award or something like that. That persona is so cool because it's essentially like a combination of Robin Hood and Loki. It's great. I think I like Loki a little more, but yeah, it's cool to see Akashi get a third tier persona and stuff like that. So all that stuff happens, and then you fight Maruki, you eventually get there and stuff like that, and it ends with like that boss fight was rough on hard mode with just Arson. By the way, that was I lost like 3 times. But that boss fight was so cool, and the different, like, you have to like defeat the different like tentacles to actually like get to him and stuff like that. Like that stuff it was a really fun and thought-provoking boss fight as far as like gameplay wise is concerned, and obviously thematically too. And the dungeon is so cool where you have to like watch tapes of Maruki's past to see why he's like that, because of like what happened with his girlfriend and how traumatized she was and all this. Like the Maruki stuff is so good. And I'm talking too long at this point. I'm trying not to, but Persona 5 is a life-changing experience. So like all that stuff happens. You beat Maruki. It ends with a fist fight between you two. No personas and no nothing. I love it's so good. It's so good. And then like you kind of escape or whatever because the palace is collapsing. Maruki kind of just accepts it. You know what? You won, and everybody kind of has an okay ending, kind of happy ending. Obviously, Akashi's gone. And then you get one more little scene as you're like leaving town, or like Maruki picks you up in the car. That was cool. They kind of changed the ending to revolve around that. And then like you're on the train going back home or whatever, and there's like a glimpse of someone that looks like Akashi, at least from like the head down. You don't get to see like the face or anything. It's like, ooh, what could that be? So gameplay wise, amazing music, great characters, great story, great. Obviously I really enjoyed the game. I don't think I would have talked about it for like probably that probably took me like 40 minutes or something if I'm counting time, if I didn't enjoy it so much. So I gotta get through this, man. I can't believe how long I've been talking. I thought this was gonna be like an hour at most. So Persona 5 is going like right here. I don't feel comfortable putting it anywhere else. In fact, I might even like it's. I know these two are side by side. These are neck and neck, just as good in completely different ways, but these are just as good both ways. Persona 5 is the best, I think, modern Persona. I really, even from my like Mega 10 loving point of view, Persona 5 is the best modern Persona. This game is so good. It's so good. Like my niche taste says I like this just a little more, but from just being like objective about it, this is so good. This is so good. So Persona 5 is great. I don't think I even need to tell you that, but it is great. Anybody that's putting it like here on their tier list, they get out. Like no. So we're gonna start like lightning rounding these just a little bit, just because I like it's getting late for me and I didn't realize how long this is gonna take. So I really like rhythm games. I'm a big fan of like Project Diva, Guitar Hero, all this kind of stuff. I'll play all sorts of rhythm games. So I've only played mostly the PS4 version, the PS4 on the PS4 Pro of Persona 4 Dancing. Story's decent for a spin-off. It's decent. It's not great. It's not bad. I think it's probably better than Persona 4 Arena Ultimate's story. But it's still not anywhere near on par of actual Persona 4. However, the gameplay is great. The songs are amazing. The new costumes of the characters are great. I love that Heaven remix with Hatsune Miku. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. The Adachi stuff, where you get to dance that one song and like that final dozen. That's just wild. Persona 4 Dancing, easy A tier. It's probably like objectively the best of the dancing games. Persona 4 Dancing's A tier. Persona 3 Dancing. Yeah, I like that more than Persona 4 Dancing. This is a better game. This plays better though. There's a couple of quality of life things that makes this game play better. And because this story is only okay, I don't care that this doesn't really have a story. I like the social link stuff, seeing the other characters' rooms and stuff. You can dance as Shinji. That's super important. But seeing like at the time, like this remastered and seeing like all the Persona 3 characters with like updated, like high detailed character models and stuff like that, and all the remixes are super good in this. Like my favorite is the School Days, I think the song's called. I can't quite remember, but the Yu Yo Yuppie remix, who he did some guitar work for like Baby Metal and stuff, and he does his own like Vocaloid stuff. He's a great guitar player, great songwriter. Like his remix of that song is great. The remixes in this are good. Persona 3 music, I obviously talked about how much I liked it before. So, and the gameplay additions just make this super good for me. This is like one of the only games I've ever gotten like all like the achievements or trophies in or whatever, because I usually like I don't complete games that hard. I'll do like some side quests and stuff like that. Like as I'm getting a little older, I'm starting to do more and more side stuff in RPGs and games and stuff. But this was like one of the first games that have like achievements stuff that actually just completely 100%. I'm like, I like this so much I have to. Persona 5 Dancing. This kind of sucks, unfortunately. I wish this kind of waited and came out after Royal with unfortunately better remix and stuff, because the remixes are bad. They double up too much, which is why I think if they just waited for Persona 5 Royal, I mean, they may not have known they were even going to do something like that. But this game, obviously the gameplay is fine because it has the improvements from Persona 3 Dancing, but like I wasn't missing the P5 cast as much at the time, and because this has like no story, it really wasn't doing anything for me. And while the gameplay is fine, I did not end up platining this like I did Persona 3 Dancing. In fact, I don't think I ever even like, I'm not sure if I feel like maybe I finished it and then that's it. I didn't bother trying to play on like Dancing All Night mode or whatever that was called, and I didn't really try to go super hard in the scores and stuff, just because the remixes aren't that good. And that's the bread and butter of a rhythm game. If your music isn't worth listening to, then it doesn't matter how good the gameplay is. Honestly, like, honestly, I'm gonna put this in F tier. This is gonna be the one. I knew I was gonna use this for something, I'm going to put this in after. I have like not touched this since I got the game when it came out. Unfortunately, I just have not like I had my fun with it, but this is out of everything that's here right now. This is the worst Persona game, and it's like if you don't play this, you are not missing anything, like at all. Like this was cool to see the Persona 3 characters again, and all the remixes are really good, and the gameplay super tight. But this just like it's like the remixes are garbage. And I know music's like subjective, but everybody pretty much agrees with that. The remixes are trash and they double up on songs too much and stuff like that. And it's like I wasn't missing the Persona 5 cast yet. It wasn't like Persona 3 that was at that point a while ago until that happened. It's just like I wasn't missing them yet, so I didn't really need this for any reason. This just did everything it was trying to do, but better, you know. Oh, whoops. Okay, so these two are it's gonna take a little longer. Talk about Persona Q2 first, as that came out first. Persona Q2. So this is Persona Q with a ton of quality of life fixes. Story's still trash. Story is nothing to write home about. However, the gameplay is incredible. I loved it so. I did like every little side thing of this game and everything. The party building is some of the is literally I think the most fun in the entire series, because you get access to Persona 3, 4, and 5, and you get to use Akeshi the whole game. Akeshi talks to Shinji at one point. That's really all I needed in my life. But no, seriously, like the party composition while choosing, and you have the female protagonist from Persona 3 you could choose from separately from the male protagonist, and you get to use all these different Persona users or party members, and they all have sub personas you can use. The fact that I can make my team with Shinji and Akeshi, and I think I used the female protagonist from Persona 3 and Joker, and then like I think Yukari was like my final team. But there's so much fun from a gameplay standpoint you can have from this. The dungeon crawling is 10 times better than Q1, just because like the map system works, it's functional. I'm never getting like lost in these games. The dungeons were super fun to clear just because the gameplay was so good. The music is incredible. Story is like nothing, but the gameplay was so good and the interactions were fun that it honestly made up for it. I enjoyed it a lot, and I still didn't see like the end coming or anything. There's still some cool stuff they do with the story, with like all the theater stuff, that it is better than this by a bit. Sorry, story, but gameplay wise, oh my god, I love it. I'm putting that there. I really liked Q2. I put so much time in Q2. All right, we're gonna talk about Strikers. We're gonna get this done with. Persona 5 Strikers, best Persona spinoff, probably. I don't think anybody would argue that. I'm a big fan of like Musou games, Warriors games. So when I heard that this was happening, I'm like, oh my god. I always thought back when like this happened, I'm like, I wish there was like a Persona 4 Warriors game. And I was just thinking like normal Warriors gameplay. Koei and Atlus kicked so much butt with this game. They blended the two styles perfectly, where this really feels like an action RPG version of Persona 5. Like those Koei guys knocked it out of the park with this. The gameplay is so good, and it's interesting and very different for Persona. And being able to like fully control the other party members and stuff. And Yusuke is just Virgil 2.0, which is awesome. I like Sophie. Sophie's great. Sophie's a very fun character. It's like a direct sequel to original Persona 5. It sucks that it's not really Persona 5 Royal relevant, just because it like, you know, was in development at the same time. So, but kind of have to let that pass, because literally there's nothing they could have done about that. But the story is a really cool, actual full continuation from Persona 5, which is amazing. It feels still like Persona 5. It feels like a genuine direct sequel to Persona 5, and it's awesome. The gameplay radically different though, and the dungeons are like some of the best in the series, just because it's like fully explorable, and you just feel like you have so much control over everything you're doing. The gameplay was so good. Persona Fusion is still just as great as ever. All the Psycho stuff you can do. The dungeon, the jails is what they call them. Those were super cool. The story is great. It treads over a lot of similar beats to Persona 5, but it's all new stuff, like new characters and new stuff. And all of this Zenkichi stuff was very interesting. I loved it a lot. I love the whole weird like empty jail, and like what was that? Was that supposed to be like Hawaii or something, or at least some or Okinawa? Can't remember which tropical place it was, but that whole jail that didn't have like a ruler at the end, and you find out like jails are really just for keeping people in. It wasn't the same as palaces, and there's essentially Tony Stark at the end. That stuff was cool. You still had, unfortunately, the big bad evil god at the end, the Demiurge, which I could take it or leave it, but the Sophie stuff was interesting. And I didn't see that one random woman being actually like the bad guy all along, like up until the Demiurge thing. I actually did not see that coming. That was cool. I liked all the jails and going to the different towns and seeing all the new landscapes and stuff like that. And the party interaction was actually good. And it wasn't like the interaction like Q2 and the dancing games are fine, but they're like surface level stuff. Like Persona 5 Strikers is legitimately just written like as well as Persona 5 interactions. I really liked it a lot. All the jails are super cool. The music, oh my god, the music is like Counter-Strike. I think that's that one song, like when you're like near the end of the game, like oh my god, the jail theme stuff, oh, it's all so good. Zenkichi is my jam. I liked again having like this adult party member, and he's like part of the police, and he was really trying to get you at first, and there's all the stuff going on with his daughter and stuff. Like Zenkichi is such a fun character, and to me he had, like, as far as new Persona games, he had the most interesting like toolkit out of any of the Personas, just being like gun almighty and like buff based. It was super strange, and I like his sword thing. I like his like metaverse outfit, and just him being a phantom thief was so cool because he's like an older cop. It was Akatsuya again, but not really. Their personalities are very different. The Zenkichi stuff is great. I loved him so much. So Persona 5 Strikers, I like an amazing game. I had so much fun with this when it came. This was the best Persona spinoff. So we're putting that right there. I know I crowded S and A, but that's because Persona literally is just that good as a series. And I know I didn't talk about Strikers as long as I did Royal. I'm not going to go through the whole recap at this point because it does tread a lot of the same beats as Royal, but all the Zenkichi stuff feels very unique. All the stuff going on with him and his daughter. And there's a lot more like real world consequences at stake with the Phantom Thieves during this. It's maybe not a lot more, but like it seems more prevalent. But it is getting super late where I'm at right now, and I'm shocked I've been talking about Persona for this long. So this is what we're gonna end off with. There's no reason to rank these because I kind of already talked about this before, but this is what we're getting at. This is my personal trying to be very harsh about it, how I feel about these. So this has been super fun to talk about. This has taken an incredible amount of time. I'm surprised it took so long. So it's been fun talking about Persona. If you have any comments, what would you rate these games? I always love to see what other people have to say. Like, if you have the same tier list, either tell me in the comments where you would put them. If you think some of these versions are worth discussing more intricately, you can even just use this tier list thing, this one specifically, and like maybe upload a screenshot and send it to me or in the comments or something. I don't know if you can link that stuff in the comments. Actually, not sure. Just do it in text form. That's fine. And tell me what you think. Tell me how wrong I am. Definitely like to hear that. No, like seriously, like I want this to be an open discussion for Persona games on what you think and what you feel. So this has been like, I've really wanted to talk about my thoughts and opinions on Persona for a while. It hasn't really come up yet. So this has been great to talk about all this, but this video is probably going to be like almost 3 hours long. I literally think it's going to be almost 3 hours long. I'm not sure, or at least like 2.5. So we're going to end it there. I know this is way different content than normal, and I don't think I'm going to do this all the time. I just really wanted to talk about Persona, and I think this was the most efficient way to do so we could have like a long talk about Persona. This is something you're going to be putting on in the background. I'm going to be rambling for a while, obviously, a long time. I've been talking so much at this point today because I streamed earlier. So I'm done. I need to get some dinner really bad. So this has been a lot of fun. I hope you enjoy the video. Like, comment, subscribe. If you want my streams, go to the second channel I have linked. You can find it in featured channels if you want. There's my Twitch link somewhere there too if you care. But most importantly, like, I want you to comment and tell me, you know, what would your list look like? And what's your favorite Persona game and your least favorite Persona game? Let me know in the comments. This would be great. I'm totally out. Bye.